All right, everyone. Good evening. It is Tuesday, July 21st at 6:15 in the evening, and I hereby call this meeting of the Wellfleet Selectboard to order. We'll start our customary announcements and public comments, starting with the board, if there's any announcements. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So last night I attended an event here. Seasonal residents and friends of Wellfleet Ponds had an event here. The focus was on water quality. Some, interesting sort of facts explained. I would say the town's actions, meaning the select board's actions, were mischaracterized by some speakers, but wasn't the time to engage on that. I talked to them a bit about our short-term rental regulation and asked them, even though you are entitled to the +2, just to voluntarily stick to your septic system capacity. And I had a very nice time talking to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess we could say, I think the chair and I also attended a water quality from the Friends of the Ponds last week on Thursday, and that was very informative, well attended, very well attended, and I think a good time was had by all, but Andrew Gottlieb was the speaker. He wasn't there last night.
No, and I should say it was not the Friends who were mischaracterizing the town's behavior. Thank you.
Okay. So it was, I thought, very informative, and it was good to be there.
It was.
And that's all I have to say about that.
From you, Mr. Curley?
Nope.
Very well. I have a few announcements. My office hours are going to be next Monday from 12 to 1 at Town Hall on the second floor. The fire chief has asked me to let the public know that the Wellfleet Police and Fire Departments will be throwing their first National Night Out on Tuesday, August 4th from 3:30 to 6 o'clock. There will be free food, there'll be a bouncy castle for the kids, and an opportunity to meet our emergency service and public safety teams. They're excited about that. That'll be on Lawrence Road in front of the police and fire stations. And just a note to the public that we will be postponing the discussion of the Lieutenant Island Road construction tonight. That's agenda item D. We will not be covering that this evening. With that, I'll open it up to public comment. Please remember that public comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker, and that the board will not deliberate or vote on any matter raised solely during announcements and public comments. With that, I'll take anyone in the room.
Sorry.
Seeing none, is there any public comment online? I don't see any. All right, going once, going twice. Moving on to the consent agenda. We have 2 items on the consent agenda for this evening. The use of town property for the 11th annual Wellfleet Rowing Rendezvous Marina Boat Ramp on September 26, 2026 from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then a support letter for the Wellfleet Cultural District that I authored that I'm looking for the board's approval to send. Would anyone like to remove anything from the consent agenda?
No, Mr. Chair, I move to approve the following with no objections: the use of town property for the 11th annual Wellfleet Rowing Rendezvous Marina on September 26th, 2026 from 9 to 1. And Mr. Barron is going to be the supervisor, it seems, or overseer of that, or sponsoring it, and a letter of endorsement to the Mass Cultural Council in support of Wellfleet's Cultural District's recertification application.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ryan, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
Is John online, Rebecca? John, can you hear us? I think John might have dropped. And the chair votes aye.
Okay.
Motion passes 4 to 1 with 1 absence. Moving on to the town administrator's report. Mr. Greeno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got quite a bit tonight, but I'll try to keep it brief. But first and foremost, I have, as I noted to you last week, at our last meeting, we were close to choosing a community service director, new person with Suzanne retiring. I kind of went through how we interviewed and people on the committee. I won't do that again, but unanimously, I am pleased to announce from the committee and from myself that the town appointed Jen Elsenson as the new Director of Community Services. Jen, you want to come up to the table for a little bit?
Yeah,
Surprise.
be afraid. Congratulations.
Her, just for the board's, in the public's knowledge, we interviewed 6 for this position out of about 15 or 16 that applied, and Ms. Elsenson just hit it out of the park. There was no question with any of the people on the committee who the top choice for this position was. So if the board wants to ask her any questions, she's thrilled, I can tell.
Right. So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, no questions today. I'm just like to welcome you to this position and say how excited I am, to see what your leadership does and to just see you at these meetings to keep us informed and bring us ideas. And thank you for accepting.
Thank you, Barbara.
I'll just very quickly, so first, congratulations. I think you'll be an excellent choice. I'm not really, I think after you've been in the position for a bit of time, I think that's when you kind of go to the town administrator and talk about, some of the workflows that you think, might be better done. But until you actually, work with everybody and see how everything works on a intimate basis, it's kind of hard to make those broad pronouncements ahead of time. So I'm looking forward to you serving the town of Wellfleet, the community, and I'm looking forward to whenever you have those conversations with the town administrator.
Thank you. May I, Josh?
Please.
My intention is to listen and learn and kind of try to discern what the staff needs, what the community needs for a year before I make any major changes. We're already talking about some little things that can be tweaked just to make the staff more supported and have what they need, but no major changes for a year.
So I have one request.
We're starting to veer away from the TA report.
All right,
if I'm-
so slightly, it's more on, if we can figure out the climate controls for this room. It's always all over the place for us. It can be, one week it can be 90 degrees in here, and the next week it will be like 50. And it's like, yeah.
You will be judged solely.
Obviously.
Okay, well, my first thing was noticing those tiles that are about to fall on people. So, yeah, I'm looking around the plant and seeing what needs to be done. But Ryan, I have experienced the same thing being in the
Yep, with the
committee
committees.
secretary. Yep. You dress for winter in layers.
And I just want to say congratulations as well.
We're thrilled.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great, good luck.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jen. Regarding the traffic lights, there's been an awful lot of concern relative to the traffic flow from the new lights, particularly from the lights near Van Rensselaers and Marconi. Jay Norton, at my request, has contacted Mass DOT in regards to the issues we're having here. And my understanding is that has been moved to their engineering division in Boston, and they are going to be reviewing the sequencing of lights and seeing if they will or can do anything to make that adjustment so it's not a 10-second light on Route 6 and a 2-minute light on coming out of the national park. So
Should be the other way around.
with that, that's all we have for that tonight. I do want to note, Jay noticed me yesterday, the transfer station, which is generally open 7 days a week through Labor Day, will be going to a regular 5-day schedule effective August 26th. So it's a week early. They're losing their summer staff, and there's no way to staff the facility for 7 days. So it's on the web, but we just wanted to let people know that starting the week of August 26th, the transfer station will be closed Wednesdays and Thursdays, as it normally is during the rest of the year. We met, Jay, I, Nancy, and Beth met with residents of Omaha Road. It is a private way, and it is low-lying in some areas. There is quite a bit of breakup of the bituminous there. The folks on the road have been maintaining it and keeping it up, but it's breaking down to the point where they can't do that anymore. We're not sure we can do anything, but Jay and I are looking at that, and we're going to try to come up with some proposals either for them or something that we may be able to partner on. But that's a very tender area to walk across when you're talking about working on private roads. So I just wanted to let you know. The RFP for the proposal at Lawrence Hill plant operations, we have to have by law an engineer on staff for a 2-year period. It's not an everyday thing. And I'm sorry, I lost my place. I'm going to start that again. We opened I have 2 on Lawrence Hill, I'm sorry. We opened this for the management of the facility. We are required by law to have, an operator if we're not doing the operation. The bid, we had 2 bids originally, one from Veolia, one from Whitewater. Whitewater withdrew after several conversations with them. They opted not to continue. We opened up both bids just to see the prices anyways. The bid from Veolia, which we will bring back to you, came in at $550,000 over 3 years. So under their proposal, the first year would be $164,000, the second year $171,000, and the third $178,000. I note that it's $177,000 and $170,000 and some change. I've just rounded it up to the nearest $1,000. We will take a look at this, send it through council, and then when we have a contract ready for you to award, if that's what the board chooses to do, we'll bring it to you. Bids for the ladders at the marina have been opened. The award will be made public once we have completed our due diligence. As it looks right now, CJR Marine out of Mashpee is the low bidder at $24,000.
CJR Atlantic. CJR Atlantic.
CJR Atlantic, I'm sorry. We are continuing to populate the materials for the wage and class study that is ongoing. We have a memo that we gave you today relative to parking that was not ready for Friday's packet. We apologize for that, but we do need the board's input and guidance as to what, before we start moving forward, we want to know what we're moving forward on. We will be calling a meeting with the Finance Committee Chair on Thursday. I'll be speaking to him about getting the high-level huddle group up and running sometime early in August. Similar to that, but a different committee, the Wastewater Working Group will be meeting in the first 2 weeks of August as well. We are still on that. We're still waiting a contract proposal from EDR, and we expect that from them no later than Friday afternoon, Monday morning. Barbara can speak to this better than I, but we continue to look at the elementary school issues as the efficiency and regionalization group meets and moves forward. Martha Gordon and I and Barbara, if she's available, hope to meet with some smaller communities that have gone through a similar situation that we're going through now on a regionalization or consolidation study, not anything decided, but there are some folks out in the Shelburne Falls and Warwick area that Barbara has knowledge of, and we're going to try to have some meetings with those folks as well. Martha, I said, did I? Oh, I meant to say Martha. It was Martha in my head, I'm sorry. Fall town meeting, we're going to bring that up this evening for later in October. While it's generally not a budget meeting, it's not meant to be a budget meeting, but we do have some things that we have to address. The price of fuel has not abated, and we thought it would be abated by now. That was the guidance we were getting. And I know that just May and June, the police department spent an additional $14,000 on gasoline. So that's one that we're looking at. Legal, we've had some additional legal issues that have come up that I think we are going to require. I had cut the legal budget, but with some of the stuff that has come up, I think we're going to need to augment that a little bit. The intent of the cutting of the budget was to try to get staff from calling KP every time they had a question. Sometimes we can answer our own questions. Sometimes we need counsel. It was just becoming, in my opinion, it was just becoming too easy to make the call to Boston. The advertisement for the HR director will be out by the end of the week. I've been waiting to hear back from Mr. Bienvenu on perhaps a joint, and he's working on it. I haven't heard back from him, but we need to go concurrently so we're not losing time. Jen E's position will also be advertised by the end of the week. The town select board, I think you know this peripherally, but I think you need to know this factually. We have substantial HVAC issues throughout the community. The police department HVAC is not working well. You know that the Gestalt, we put money in the town meeting for that, and the sticker shack is having some issues as well. That doesn't have the same kind of HVAC system as the other big buildings, but will be coming for probably in capital at some point. The air conditioning season's half over at this point. And maybe Jay can mention this a little later, we have a new facilities foreperson that Jay has recommended and we've hired, and that person will be before you at probably your next meeting as well. We have contracted with Fuss and O'Neill, this is where I was earlier, I'm sorry, to be our monthly engineering for the wastewater treatment facility. It's called observation services under the statute, under the regulation. We went out to, we didn't have to go out to bid. We asked for an RFP on this, it's exempt. Fuss and O'Neill, knowing the facility better because they built the facility, submitted an estimate of $48,000 for the 2 years or $24,000 per year, which is, we expected it to come in a little higher, 27, 28. So that will be working well. The ecological survey RFP for the Wellfleet Harbor fish and shellfish habitat study that was funded through CPA, that is out for RFP, and they are due back on July 31st. We are currently out to bid for the required septage hauling regarding Lawrence Hill. Those are due on August 6th at 10 o'clock. We have been working with Ty and Bond on a revision of the electrical specs for the harbor. We will re-RFP this project once the specifications have been received and reviewed by admin. On this, we're also doing a site visit, one more site visit with the engineering firm, the building inspector, the electrical inspector, the harbor master, John and/or I, when that comes through. We have also, Jay has met, I want to give credit where it's due, with USG. They are the water tank specialists that we've been working with for the last couple of years to revise the scope on the tower, given that we have an issue with the standpipe. We are looking now at various scenarios also. If we have to shut the water tank down for any reason, on what we can do. One of those is expensive, and you bring in plastic, containers and haul it. Jay's looking at a scenario of maybe getting some of the pumps at some of the other wells running and getting tested to see if we can keep that going. So, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I can make them shorter if you want.
No, I think this is really helpful.
Okay.
Very well. Moving on to public hearings. We have one public hearing this evening. Change of manager, MJT Enterprises Incorporated, DBA Blackfish Variety. Application was filed on June 18th, 2026. And there is a error in the agenda, but the paperwork in the advertisement was correct. It is from Christine Enos to Jessio Epstein. And so I will open the public hearing. Very well. So the public hearing is open. Can we have Paige participate? Hi, Paige, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. We review the application. If you could just quickly run down the details for the public, please.
Yeah, we had a change of manager at Blackfish Variety, and with that, we need to change it on our liquor license per the laws by ABCC.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Not seeing any in the room. None online. Then I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Ryan, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
Josh, aye. Public hearing is closed. I'll take a motion on the approval of change manager.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the change of manager for MJT Enterprises, otherwise known as Blackfish Variety, from Paige Marsh.
That's Christine Enos. There was an error.
Oh, that's where the error is.
There you go.
It's from Christine Enos to Jessio Epstein.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Thank you.
Ryan, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
Josh, aye.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
Ryan did.
Ryan, thank you.
Very well. John's still not online, is that right? Okay, that's fine. Very good. Moving to use of town property, Carl Mackey from Sweat Sauna, Cape Cod. If you can come on up, please. You can come to the table, please. Thank you.
How you doing? I'm Carl Mackey, owner of Sweat Sauna Cape Cod, and first of all, I want to thank the board for giving me the opportunity to run trial community sauna sessions last February, March, and April at LeCounte's Hollow. We felt the community engagement was strong. We'd like to come back this off-season.
Very well. Are there any questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, not a question right now, but just, well, I guess it's a question just to ask if the applicant is aware of some staff comments, is that all right?
Please.
Hi, so the one thing that staff flagged about your proposal is that the container or the shed is a structure that would require permitting through Conservation Commission.
Okay.
So I just wanted to see that you were aware of that. And I think there was another staff comment.
Jay.
Well, just, I think it's the overnight aspect of it remaining on town property. I think that's just something the board needs to discuss because that kind of puts it into a different kind of use of town property that is different from the one that you had before.
Yep.
That's more in the nature of a license, the way, someone who sets up a food truck or otherwise has something overnight. So that's just something that I know the board will want to discuss. It's not a no, but
Yep.
just so you're aware of those issues.
Okay.
I'm not sure about some of these dates. September's still pretty busy. I know we stopped checking beach stickers for it. But, you know, these beaches still get a lot of use, particularly if it's a good day and the surf's up. You know, so I'm basically pretty uncomfortable with all of September as it currently is. It might make sense to wait until after Oyster Fest, which is, you know, typically, yeah, it'd be around I don't have a calendar, but the middle of October, so it'd be around like October 18th typically.
Through the
Town
chair,
Administrator.
unless, I don't want to interrupt Ryan.
No, that's it.
DPW also had a concern, just so you're aware, sir, of the notion of portable toilets out there throughout the winter. They will be blowing all over the place all the time,
Yeah.
so.
To address that, the portable toilets were there last season, February, March, and April, consistently tucked behind the existing structure without incident.
Okay.
So, I think that proved to function well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm more than happy to modify dates. You guys know the activity of the town and activity of the beaches better than I do, so.
Did everybody, did you have a good turnout on
We did.
this?
We had a pretty good turnout. I think with more regularity, we would build more of a consistent community. I think being there every other Saturday threw some people off, so.
And that gets to the regularity of it. It does
Yep.
feel like it's a permanent business there throughout the winter.
Yep.
And that makes it a different deal. And there were concerns from the conservation agent as far as disposing of the water that's generated, the condensation, I guess, or?
Yeah, that was an error of a business identity. It wasn't my business.
Mhm.
There was a clarification sent to Rebecca about that.
And
No
also,
water is used or discharged at the event.
you know, the concerns that Jay made. So, again, you know, I never like to stand in the way of somebody making some money, but it does seem like a lot, and there are some concerns from the conservation agent. So I would move to put this off until we heard, I think, maybe meet before them.
Yeah, just before a motion is made, could I just add a couple more comments?
Please,
And then the
no,
chair,
I'd like to add
and the chair
some
has.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
to
just saying,
find-
that's
Yes.
where I would go.
Got
I'm
it.
not making the motion yet, but that's what I think
Got
would
it.
be a good direction.
Okay, so
Would it behoove me to strike the
No.
accessory structure?
let me say what I was going to say, and then I think that's
Okay.
something to think about. So I should have prefaced by saying I'm very much in support of this. I think it's a great amenity for people who live here year-round. I think it's great when someone finds a way to make a living year-round here. So I'm very much in support of it, subject to maybe some blackout of the dates, as Ryan suggested. If I would be prepared tonight to approve a modified schedule, to approve the use, but subject to sort of further discussion about the permitting issue of the shed and just other, we can ask admin to work out the other concerns that we have. Or in the alternative, I guess you could withdraw and come back after having those discussions with the different departments and with admin. But I do want to say I'm very much in favor of this proposal. So I think it's just your sense of what would be better for you. And then again, of course, after the chair's comments.
I'm finding myself in agreement largely with my colleagues. I think my concerns are, one, any permanent structure, would have to go to procurement, would have to go to bid, similar to how we bid out the space at Newcomb. So I would maybe consider if that's something that you want to pursue. Overnight parking is prohibited by regulation. And so I'm not sure I'm ready to approve overnight parking, kind of more of a permanent setup. As you've proposed, I think I'd be more comfortable if it was a daily in, daily out type of an
Yep.
operation, if I'm being honest with you. But I appreciate and respect the ambition of this. I think it was great to bring to this town. I participated in it. I think, I agree with my colleague, Mr. Curley, that I think September, beginning of October, we're still pretty busy.
Yeah.
And even the beginning of May as well. We might want to reconsider that. So it would be of my opinion that on its face, I don't know if I could endorse this, but I want to if we can work out some compromise.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe where my colleagues are
Yeah,
landing.
yeah.
So it's up to you if you want to withdraw this request. It's without prejudice, and we can reconsider it further on.
No,
the
I'd
road.
like to proceed with the request if it's, the modifications can be made. I'm happy to accept, modifications as needed.
Through the chair, I think you probably need to have a conversation with the conservation agent
Okay.
before this goes forward.
And the board.
In the Conservation Commission, if necessary, if it's got to, but you need to at least speak with Leisha, because she's got some real concerns on the shed.
Go through the chair, if what the applicant is saying is he's willing
Yeah.
to forego the shed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then that wouldn't be
That
necessary.
would eliminate that issue.
Right,
Right.
so I don't know if you want to kind of regroup and think about the changes that you can accept and come back. I guess we now have 5 members, although John hasn't had the benefit of hearing this, but this is, we're talking about the sauna. So,
Yeah, so where I am, just for my colleagues, I think the shed should be removed from the application. The dates of September and the first 4 dates in October should be removed, and all facilities need to be removed nightly to be in compliance with our overnight parking regulations. That's where I would be.
okay.
I don't know if anyone else feels otherwise, but I agree with the town administrator that I think before we really can act on this, we need to get the go-ahead from our conservation agent. And hopefully we can, you can take our suggestions, possibly modify your application if you so choose, and come back to us once you've had that conversation.
Do I need to formally make those? No, okay.
Yes, you
I
would,
do.
yes. Yeah.
You'd have to make an appointment with the agent
Yep.
Well-
and meet with her, and if she felt for you to go before the board, she would ask you to do that, and
Yeah.
we will hear from them.
Although just
Worked it out.
through the chair, if the shed is not going to be a part of this, then that doesn't require a trip to conservation. So maybe Tom, could you just discuss this with the applicant and just what the different options are? Because I don't want to take up more
Right.
time, right? But I think just some decisions for the applicant to make, just about putting together a revised application.
Let me just look at my schedule.
Yeah, not any particular time, but I just
Okay.
think that would facilitate, that would help
Yeah.
you decide what you want to remove from your application, how to simplify it and bring it back. And perhaps there are department heads you'd need to meet with, but perhaps not. And I think working with the town administrator would be the most useful, if possible.
Mr. Chair, if I
Oh,
may.
Please.
So I want to also say that I am supportive of the use as well, just so it's clear to everybody. My concern is more around the dates. I kind of share my other colleagues' concerns, but mine's primarily around the dates there.
Through the chair. So I'll just go on record as saying I'm supportive of continuing to have them here. Since I wasn't here for the discussion, I won't weigh in on the dates.
Fair enough. All right, very well. So we're not going to take action on this evening, but we looking forward to speaking to you soon
Super.
about an amended application. Thank you.
For the conversation.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Very well. Moving on to board and committee appointments and updates. Leslie Fish for the Wellfleet Cultural Council. You could come up, please.
Hello,
Good evening.
good evening, Leslie Fish. I live in Browns Neck Road in Wellfleet.
Fabulous. If you could just introduce yourself, let us know what motivated you to want to be on the Cultural Council and what you would bring to that position. That would be great.
Well, I really enjoy seeing what the Cultural Council has done in various places and events around town. And I really support the projects that they do to increase community involvement with the arts and to have that more visibility for individual people in town and with teams. And I worked on a bunch of different projects, and I love doing volunteer work. So I think it would be a good fit.
Fabulous. Thank you. Any questions or comments from my colleagues?
Well, before that, I have a question for Rebecca. Rebecca, how many vacancies are on the cultural? All right, so there's 2 applicants. All right.
There's 4.
Oh, there's 4 vacancies? All right, so yeah, no worries. You don't want to see us when we're fighting over too many applicants, or more applicants than we have seats.
It's true.
In addition to your expressed interest in the Cultural Council, what is your interest in terms of the arts in general?
I'm not an artist. My background is in chemistry, and I am looking at longevity and well-being, and I think that arts is all the aspects of the arts, physical, art, visual, performance are all important for those issues.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else from the board? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to appoint Leslie Fish as a voting member to the Wellfleet Cultural Council for a term of 3 years to expire July 21st, 2029.
Second,
Roll call vote, please.
Ryan, I.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, I.
John, aye.
And Josh, aye. Thank you very much for
Thank you very much.
volunteering. Very well. And Andy Freelick, please.
Hello.
Good evening.
I'm Andy Freilich. I live on Weeda Way. Been in Wellfleet 4 years. Just retired in February, so I've got a little more time to focus on not just using and enjoying the cultural activities and the outdoors and everything here, but participating in supporting, helping, being active. I'm getting a lot more involved in volunteering. For me, I think the Cultural Council is a good fit as I consume a lot of the activities, and it's one of the things that makes this area so attractive, not just Wellfleet, but in the vicinity, and Wellfleet's a big piece of that. In terms of what I can bring to it, I've got my career was project management and business analysis. I don't think I'll have any trouble following unbiased protocol for evaluating projects, and also where it's helpful to improve process.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from my colleagues?
I have 2. The first is just out of fairness. Whenever I ask somebody a question that's interviewing for a position, I ask the same of all of them. Obviously you're attending a number of these events already, but can you talk about your interest in the arts overall?
Sure. Well, it's diverse. So I still go back to Boston for Boston Ballet and subscribe there. I subscribe to Provincetown Theater. So I'm heavy in participating. In terms of personal, I did some things in terms of recording music and performing. It's been a while. If things go well, you might see me out there at some open mics and whatnot, but you may not also.
All right, and then the second one is kind of based off of your background more. is that the Cultural Council does a lot on a very, on basically half of a shoestring. They don't even get a full shoestring in terms of funding. You know, do you think that your experience, or how would you apply your experience to a budget like that? So.
I think the experience, well, what I would use probably is more my experience in marketing, because the last position I had was project management for marketing, it was for selling vacuums, the robotic vacuums with iRobot. But the marketing aspect to not necessarily encourage people to attend, but to answer your question, to raise funds to be able to support things. So the marketing of the Cultural Council itself versus the marketing of the events.
And then last is just congratulations on the retirement, so.
Right.
Thank you.
And fair warning, you've already signed up for a lot of different things, and I always say to people, watch it, because you'll be working harder than you did when you were retired, so.
We're going to bottle this gentleman up, and we're going to use him on a lot of
That sounds fantastic.
project management, marketing.
Yeah, I know.
We're all set.
With that, I'll
Said so much.
entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint Andy Freilich to as a voting member to the Wellfleet Cultural Council for a term of 3 years to expire July 21st, 2029, and both new appointees need to be sworn in by the clerk before voting in any upcoming meetings.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ryan, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
John, I.
And Josh, aye. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Thank you.
you'll be busy.
Our third boarding committee appointment of the evening, Patricia Taylor, please, for the Energy and Climate Action Committee.
I'm online.
Good evening, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How's everybody?
Good.
Oh.
Good.
Oh, this is reappointment. We know Patricia.
No, it's,
Yes.
Oh, it's,
I was an alternate for 2 years.
oh,
and
okay,
now
that's
there's
why,
a
that's
spot
why
for
I
voting.
recognize you up here. Okay.
Fantastic. If you could quickly introduce yourself as an alternate, can you just speak to your experience on the Energy and Climate Action Committee, please?
Well, I'll start with saying that I think the climate crisis is a big problem in our world, but I also think that people should take action and take steps. So I became a volunteer for the Energy and Climate Action Committee, and recently the committee reviewed our charge with that the Select Board had given the original committee, and I really I think that what we're assigned to do is a valuable and hopefully very useful thing to the town. So,
Thank you very much.
my interest in this whole thing goes back way back. I've been a longtime volunteer of Citizens Climate lobbied for climate policy in both D.C. and in New York State. I live half-time in New York City and half-time in Wellfleet, mostly feeling like I want to be in Wellfleet, but I have to also be in New York. So I'm ready, and it'll be fun to vote. That's the difference for me.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the board? I should say, and I do apologize for not giving the public the opportunity to comment for the Cultural Council, but if there is public comment, we will take it. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion from the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move to appoint Patricia Taylor to be a voting member of the Energy and Climate Action Committee for a 3-year term to be sworn in by the clerk.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ryan, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
John, I.
And Josh, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patricia.
Yep.
Moving on to item D, Mr. Seitler, to decide on the financial conflict of interest. Is Mr. Seitler?
Online.
Is he online?
Could be out in the flats, who knows? Hopefully not.
Understood.
So the board can either, I guess to you, Mr. Chair, we can either review it and make a determination, or we can wait.
Yeah. I'm open to take a motion on this. This is pretty par for the course for any advisory committee that is specifically asking advice from individuals that are economically involved in the area of expertise that they have. And so, is there
Mr.
any
Chairman,
discussion?
Yeah, I am open to voting tonight. I
Yes.
see no problem with
So
voting
am I.
tonight.
I think we all are.
To the chair, I not only see no issue here, I think having shell fisherman with his knowledge and his articulate way of interacting is a benefit to the town, so.
And we did just appoint him.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the Select Board as the appointing authority has determined as required under Mass General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 19, that we have reviewed the particular matter disclosed of financial interest identified by a special municipal employee. We have determined that the financial interest is not so substantial as to be deemed likely to affect the integrity of the services which the municipality may expect from Mr. Seitler.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ryan, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
John, I.
And Josh, aye. Moving on to Business A. We're here to discuss and possibly move on year-end transfers. The Town Administrator, would you like to present?
Yeah, Sue, okay. I just gotta get my stuff out here. I don't have my stuff out here.
I forgot my notebook, so.
Can I look on with you for some reason?
Need a pen?
So, Mr. Chairman, town accountant is on and will walk you through these this evening. But what we do find here is nothing new, and we've talked about this in prior years and we're working on it. We have about 2% of the budget that needs to be recalculated, and we're fortunate enough this year that we're able to do it within the budget. So but what this does show as we move forward is that we need to continue working on right-sizing the line items. There are some things that we don't know are going to happen. You know, we had a bad winter and we had some things, you know, with snow and ice and those types of things come through, and the fuel prices is not something that we could have anticipated prior to them going up. But there are various lines within the budget that are frequently either underspent or overspent, and not by a lot, not doing anything wrong. It's just they're okay within their, because we vote the budget salaries and expense, so they're generally able to transfer stuff within their own line items. Some of the times, like with fire, overtime, which is an annual event, is something that we just need to make the transfers on every year. Without getting into the weeds too much, and I'll turn it over to Sue, but on fire, if we were to fund the overtime fully, we'd have money left in the salary account. It kind of balances each year. We plan on overtime. When someone goes out on injured on duty, or someone is out on vacation, but if we have a long-term illness, and we currently have 2, we're backfilling with overtime or the per diem person that Chief Capello has so smartly able to move up and train so that that can happen. But overall, most of these are either budget errors. There was one that is misplaced that Suzanne is fixing, but I'll have her walk through these with you. They're all pretty standard. I did send an email out earlier in the week that if the board members had any questions prior to the meeting, it would be helpful if we had those. The chair was very kind in getting some questions to us, and I think we got them answered. So, Sue, if you want to go walk us through this?
Well, why don't we just look at it, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, why don't we look at it as, what questions do you have, and then we'll look at those line items, because there's some that, like, they're very explainable.
Screen share?
Can you do a screenshot of that? Yeah. No, but Rebecca's going to do it. Hold on.
Oh, thank you. And Rebecca, you have the latest thing that I sent out today.
Yes.
While we're looking to put that up, one of the things I'm going to re-mention is the Commonwealth has come up with an amount of money to help offset the winter expenses that we had in the formulation that has come down from the governor's office. We would receive about $143,000 in snow and ice support, which would leave about $100,000 over the normal. We were over by about 246,000 plus or minus.
And there's two ways of handling that, or three. We could do a transfer. They allowed us to amortize it over 2 years, or we can raise it on the recap. So raising it on the recap, I think we have, by town meeting expenditures and what is proposed for the fall town meeting, I'm pretty confident with my numbers. I haven't sent that to Tom yet, but I have looked at those numbers that we can allocate it to raise and appropriate as a deficit, which snow and ice is a legal deficit. And so that would be gone by the end of this year. So however the three sources are, you would have to decide how you want to handle it. But I think raising it on the recap wouldn't affect anything outside of the normal tax rate.
Generally, we'll keep it on a recap unless it's huge, 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 and this isn't, with the support from the state.
So I have a question, if my colleagues would mind if I started. It seems like the property insurance was a bit of a surprise. Can you help us understand how that came about?
My understanding is that they did a valuation of the properties, the values went up, and then they tweaked, they sent us a supplemental invoice.
Well, I guess when did that occur?
I can't give you a date off the top of my head.
It wasn't until, you're talking about the assessments?
The insurance,
Oh, the insurance.
the liability, the property and liability.
Yeah, that didn't occur until late April, late May, early June.
I understand. Okay. That makes sense to me then. Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Just very quickly, so first is these year-end transfers are smaller than they've been in the past years, and I'm glad to see that. I've expressed my concerns with some previous ones that were fairly significant. The second is more in terms of process, and doesn't the FinCom also need to vote?
They're meeting tomorrow night.
Okay, so those are my two, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, with scheduling and timing, I agree with you. I think it would be more productive going forward if FinCom can have this conversation before the board does, but nonetheless, it can go either way.
Okay.
And wait, through the chair, is it advisory to us, their vote?
No, it has to have a
It has their vote as well?
vote from both bodies.
Both bodies, okay.
That's statute, that's under the
Got it,
statute.
okay.
We used to meet jointly. I tried to get a joint meeting that didn't materialize, but in other towns, we met jointly, so we only had to do this once, but.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Nothing else, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the year-end transfers as presented at tonight's meeting.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Brian, aye?
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
John, aye.
And Josh, aye. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sue.
You're welcome.
That was a lot
All
of
right,
work
see you
for a
tomorrow.
short meeting. But that-
I know, right?
Thank
Talk to
you.
you tomorrow.
Yourself.
No. I'd rather just go in order if you don't mind. Moving on to business B, to approve the Firematic Supply Company contract.
So this is a contract for the compressors used by the SCBA equipment at the fire department, self-contained breathing apparatus. So they use compressed air. The compressor system that they use is old and needs to be replaced, so this contract would replace that equipment.
It's coming out of capital.
Yes.
Yeah, it was part of the capital plan. It's not on a sequence.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Just very quickly, Mr. Chair. So this has to do with, basically the dollar threshold that we've set for what the town administrator is allowed to enter into without the approval of the board. We've talked about that as a potential future agenda item or not, but at the same time, I think it's valuable to understand some of the, actual equipment that these people need to be able to perform the jobs. Because, we as, the executive body, has to oftentimes explain these things to the public if necessary, and rather than having us say, I don't know, it's much better if we can say, and this is, one of the pieces of equipment that's extremely vital to firemen to perform their job safely. And that's basically it.
I will only add to that, the only reason there's no procurement info is on there is because this was purchased from a state contract.
Yep.
State contracts do not require us to procure. We can buy directly from them because they've already done the procurement hypothetically. So, yes, and like I said, compressor equipment, old, just getting replaced.
Off the state contract.
Excellent. Mr. Wolf?
What is the actual cost of this?
$77,027.
77 is right there.
And do we know how old the equipment is that's being replaced and what the projected lifespan is of the new?
That I do not know. My conversation with the chief was, I have money in my capital. I need to replace an old compressor that we use to fill our Scott packs, and I usually don't go beyond that, but I certainly, going forward, can do that. Usually that comes out in the capital process when they're putting in for their capital requests. But that doesn't answer your question, but.
Should have a 20-year life. You should have a 20-year life.
Okay.
Chief's on, if you want to ask him.
Oh, okay.
He's awake?
Chief Capella, do you have any insight into Mr. Wolf's question?
I don't know what he's listed under.
Does he know we're talking?
We're going to bring him over. 1 second. See him on?
Did he hear that we were
I
speaking?
can't talk, question mark. Yeah, you can, raise your hand, because I don't see you.
Can you promote panelists?
Does he have his,
Yeah,
I don't know where he is.
we can't find him.
His name, he's not listed.
Oh.
So he's either iPhone 1, 2, 5.
And he has to try to unmute himself, is
We have
that
a
it?
number of anonymous users.
Or he could
on-
raise his hand.
Right, that's what I did. There we go. I did.
There he is. Is that him?
I would assume so.
No.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Hi, Chief.
Good evening, Chief.
Sorry, that was a little confusing. I apologize. So to answer John's question, the equipment was original to the building. And at this point, trying to replace parts is becoming more and more difficult. At this point, we are currently out of service with the equipment. We cannot fill the packs that help us go into contaminated atmospheres, which is building fires or carbon monoxide incidents or whatever. I'm working on trying to get it currently fixed, but we have to go to either Eastham or Truro now to fill our bottles that we carry on the backs of our backs with the packs to go in to deal with those situations. So to answer John's question, it's original to the building since 2009. And unfortunately, when we got it, it was perfect then, but it is no longer it's no longer serviceable. Is kind of where we're at.
Okay.
17 years, John.
If nothing else, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the contract with Firematic Supply Company as presented at tonight's meeting.
Second,
Roll call vote, please.
Ryan, I.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
John, aye?
Josh, aye. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very well. Business C, Mr. Norton and Alpha Facility Solutions to review and discuss the ADA assessment completed by Brightly and Alpha Facility Solutions.
Good evening, Ron Crumps from Alpha Facility Solutions. I'm just going to share my screen here and make sure you can see that. Can you see facility condition assessment? Kind of what, you know?
Yep.
Fantastic. If there's no other comments, I'll just go right ahead then.
Please.
Ron, just quick, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Good evening, everybody. Through the chair, this is Jay Norton, DPW Director. I just want to say something briefly before you start your presentation, Ron, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Just wanted to kind of briefly open this up and describe the process that we went through here. So the town hired Brightly Software, which also hired a subcontractor called Alpha, in which they came through all our facilities in town with their engineers and looked at all the assets and the HVAC systems and utilities and just overall building conditions, and developed this report so we could assess a lot of our capital repairs, which is great. So this is what this report will entail. There was also an ADA, an abbreviated ADA assessment that was conducted in addition to this. So we're going to touch upon all these components. Following this study, we also work with Brightly Software and their software development team and have come up with a new work order system that will connect a lot of these assets to capital repairs and overall preventative maintenance, which we will also touch upon. I don't want to take up too much time because I know we have a lot to cover, but just wanted to briefly open that up, and I will be here for any further questions. So thank you, Ron.
Sure. Glad to be visiting with you tonight. Greetings from San Antonio, Texas, and the review of our, so it's fun to reach out from across the country, make some new acquaintances and friends, and talk about the facility condition assessment and assets inventory in your accessibility survey. So really 2 reports we're covering. I've chosen to do some slides to highlight rather than go through page by page through the reports and hit the highlights. So I hope that works for you. And if there are additional details you need, I'd be happy to provide them. Stop me at any time if you have questions. I'm Ron Crumps. I'm an engineer with Alpha Facility Solutions. I'm going to just shut off my video for just a minute so I'm not as much of a distraction so you can see the slides. Engineer with Alpha by license and by training. 23 years active duty Navy, 19 of those managing facilities, Civil Engineer Corps, 9 years with a large school district in South Carolina as Director of Facilities, and 4th year with Alpha. Love asset management projects and helping clients just like you. So that's me in a nutshell. And let's see. There we go. The agenda for this brief is a quick company introduction, review root cause of the assessment, the contracted scope, results, and some recommendations for next steps. And I'll try to move fairly quickly, but stop me at any time. So Alpha, we are a service-disabled, veteran-owned, minority-owned small business. We are a licensed architect engineer, so an A&E license, providing the services on the left of the slide, some of which we provided for you: condition assessment, equipment inventory, preventative maintenance schedule development, et cetera. Have helped many clients over the years. We have assessed over 1 billion square feet of facilities in the last 19 years, helped many clients secure additional funding through the power of the good data that we collect and deliver, and help you make good decisions. With many different clients, here's a map showing hundreds of clients across the federal space across the U.S., including bottom middle of the slide, 265 municipal projects, so many projects just like yours, and over 125 federal projects around the globe as well. So that's us, quite a broad background in this sort of work. Let me review the root cause of the assessment and some definitions. Really, it's entropy. Entropy is the real root cause for the assessment. Natural law in the universe, things are going from a higher state of order and energy to a lower state of order and energy. Things are degrading. We see it in our homes, we see it in our schools, we see it in our municipal facilities, such that roofs last 15, 20 years, HVAC 12, 15 years, et cetera. You're very probably familiar with it just from being a homeowner, but it seems to manifest in patterns, right, in life cycles of these different facility systems. The life cycles that we used for this study and this work were the BOMA standard life cycles, the Building Owners and Managers Association standard life cycles. They're listed on Appendix A on page 166 of the report, but these are the standard life cycles that are built into our findings and into the report. And this is useful for capital planning. This is useful for forecasting when various systems need to be replaced, just like the breathing device we were just speaking about earlier in the meeting. Our cost information comes from a proprietary cost library that we originally developed from RS Means, and we continue to update from RS Means, which is a nationwide industry standard cost catalog. So that's where our costs come from. We correct these costs for the area of the work that we're doing, in your case in the Northeast. And the costs that we'll be speaking about are hard costs only. When you think about facilities, there are site costs. They have site development costs, like running utilities to a site or buying a piece of land. Then there are hard costs that are associated just with the construction or the actual contracted work on site. And then there are soft costs, which are things like permitting and fees, supervisory and overhead, those sorts of fees. We're talking hard costs only. We refer to hard costs only because the ASTM, the American Society of Testing Materials standard that governs FCA, says we should stick with hard costs only because soft costs vary considerably. We usually say around 30% markup, something like that, for soft costs. And so we always kind of give that caveat up front of what these costs are. These are hard costs that you're seeing. A couple other definitions I'd like to cover quickly. The first is what's called the Facility Condition Index, or the FCI. It's a key performance indicator. It was originally developed in 1991 by NACUBA, the National Association of College and University Business Officials. And it's defined as, it's a fraction of total needs or deficiencies in the numerator. And those are things that are due or overdue in a facility, divided by the current replacement value. The current replacement value is usually calculated as a cost per square foot times the total inventory. So total needs divided by CRV times 100 is the FCI. Blue text on the left of the slide, you can see an example where if you had a facility with 3 million of deficiencies, let's say you needed a roof, HVAC, and a paint job, and those things were all due or overdue at the end of their useful life, not halfway through or 3/4, but at end of life or beyond. Those are deficiencies. If the current replacement value of that facility were 10 million, well, then we have 3 over 10, which is 0.3, times 100, the FCI for that building would be a 30. And so it's really a percentage, right? It really means an FCI of 30 means you have to invest 30% of the value of your facility to arrest or alleviate or repair those needs or deficiencies at that point in time. And this is something that's calculated maybe annually. It's a snapshot. It says all the deficiencies that exist right now divided by that CRV. It could be different next year or 5 years from now because new deficiencies could come into play later, but it's the deficiencies that exist right now. That's how the FCI is defined. What does it really mean? On the right side of the screen, we assign these labels of good, fair, poor, critical. And again, Nakubo developed those many years ago. And the International Facilities Management Association, IFMA, added a fourth category, that critical category you see there. And it's a little bit challenging to assign these labels because, you know, the good is a fairly small window, 0 to 5, and fair is 5 to 10. And then poor is this wide range from 10 to 30. And a lot of facilities fall in that range, and then it becomes difficult to understand what does that really mean, 11 versus 15 versus 20. And that always leads us to say, and me especially to say, the FCI is really more powerful in comparing one facility to all the other facilities in our portfolio. Because 20 is worse than 15, is worse than 10, is worse than 5. And so the worst score is, or the highest score rather, is the score that's the worst, the facility that needs the most attention. And so the FCI is most useful in comparing one facility to others rather than saying, well, it's good, fair, or poor. But that order counts. And you also, it's helpful if you're tracking the FCIs in a facility to be driving them down, right? You want to get them as low as possible. And sometimes if you have a facility where the FCI is very high, 50 or 60, something like that, it might be a factor in consideration for demolition or replacement of facility. But then there are other things to be considered as well. Anyway, that's the FCI, and you'll see those scores for all your facilities in just a couple moments. So I define that up front, and then also this current replacement value that I've already mentioned in previous slides. But it's the local cost of construction per square foot times the total square footage. That's that second bullet on the slide. And the third bullet, so you see the town of Wellfleet, CRV, we used $592 per square foot for that cost of construction per square foot. Hard costs, again, this is hard cost only, times your inventory, 121,000 square feet for a CRV of 72 million. So I want to make sure that's clear what that is, and we'll refer to that again in a little bit. Any questions so far? I've been running along here. Anything so far, question?
Mr. Town Administrator.
I have one. Out here in the outer lower Cape, once you hit the Orleans Rotary, there is a marked increase in all of the things we do here, whether we're buying things or hiring outside firms from lower, upper Cape or off Cape. My question is, did you take into consideration you said you looked at prices like regionally, like the Northeast, but Wellfleet, Orleans, Eastham, Provincetown, Truro, we generally get a higher price for any item that we want to buy because it's the travel distance in getting people out here is time-consuming and expensive to a company.
Understood. So let me take a look with Mr. Norton and see if we can zero in on specific cost by building. I want to make sure that we've got the cost collected properly. So I believe so, but I want to make sure I understand completely what your question is.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Let me continue then.
One more question, Mr.
Yeah,
Wolf.
sure.
Just for my own education, is the 121,938 square feet, is that the total square footage of everything you surveyed?
That's right, of the 15 facilities that were included in our scope.
Wow.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Moving on then, the contracted scope. Let me just review the exact scope that we were contracted to perform. So that was to inventory fixed equipment. So this is HVAC and fire alarm and different pieces of equipment. Identify and document current and forecasted conditions of the inventory. So for each piece of equipment or each system that we inventoried, we assigned a condition of those. And so by equipment and systems, let me clarify, if you were to go up on a rooftop, you would see rooftop package units and exhaust fans and makeup air units and things like that, items of equipment. But then you're standing on a roof, and that roof is an asset too. That's a system asset. You would put barcode tags and track the various HVAC equipment on that roof, but then you would track the roof as well but not as a piece of equipment, right? It's a whole roof. And same thing with finishes, same thing with doors and hardware, same thing with windows, lighting, things like that. So we have equipment assets and we have system assets, and we captured both and assigned conditions to all those. We identified and documented current site or paving needs, that's parking lots and sidewalks right in the immediate vicinity of each of the facilities. We identified and documented the remaining service life of the major systems. So based on their life cycle, how much service life is left, system by system, asset by asset for each of the facilities. And then a rough order of magnitude cost to make those repairs, replacements, when they needed to be replaced for all the buildings, the systems and equipment. Forecast out over 20 years, and you'll see that a table in just a minute. Provide the FCI, facility by facility, so you can draw a comparison. And then we also did address accessibility, a modified accessibility study, and you'll see the results of that in just a moment. So that was the scope of work. Let me clarify a little bit on the FCA, the facility condition assessment. So we collect equipment assets and then system assets. And these system assets are these here, and I want to make sure you know it's a very comprehensive list. We follow the guidelines in the ASTM standard E2018 that governs condition assessment. And so it's all these different systems, exterior, interior, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, fire protection. Conveying is elevators and lifts, kitchen equipment, et cetera. So all these different systems were assessed. So that's a snapshot of what the scope included. And then we'll move into the results. Very quickly, Mr. Norton mentioned that we collected all this equipment for the Brightly Asset Essentials computerized maintenance management system. And just very quickly, and I won't dwell on this, but this is just a snapshot of the data that is now living in your Brightly CMMS platform. So building by building, you see fire department, boiler, exhaust hood, exhaust fan, door motor, et cetera, et cetera. So hundreds and hundreds, thousands of line items with make, model, serial number, life cycle, condition, all that information is now living in that CMMS. So you can manage those assets day to day, assign work orders, assign preventive maintenance. And we've attached a preventive maintenance library to that specific inventory, and that's living in the Asset Essentials platform as well. So you can do preventive maintenance on all those assets. So that's just the equipment inventory, and that's going to live on as you manage that. But then here are the, let me advance. Here are the reports. So, and you, I believe, have a copy of this report. So it starts with an executive summary. The front page looks like that. And further in, there's executive summary information, but further in, page by page, there's specific information about each of the facilities, construction type, roof type, ceiling type, lighting, et cetera, specifics about the facility, general observations, and on in quite a bit of detail. There's some narrative results that are included. It talks about the 15 permanent facilities and the total square footage. Our thanks again, I haven't mentioned already, but to Mr. Norton and his staff for helping us in the field get around to all the facilities, sharing his knowledge, helping us get this done. So we very much appreciate the partnership with him and his team in getting this done. This is an important table that I'll spend a minute or two on. It's on page 13 in the report. It's table 1. It's a description or summary of findings, an overview of findings, if you will. And on the left of the slide, you see the 15 buildings that we assessed, listed one after another. Next to that, the year built. Next to that, the area of each, square footage. And then the total needs in the year of the assessment, which was last year. And the current replacement value of each facility. And then the FCI in 2025. And then a forecast of 5 years in advance and the FCI in 2030. So right there in that table, the fourth column over, the total needs in 2025, that's the numerator in that fraction, in that FCI fraction. So total needs is the numerator. Right next to that to the right is the current replacement value. That's the denominator times 100, and that calculates the FCI. And then we forecast out 5 years in advance for a couple of reasons. And this assumes this forecast of 5 years in advance. It's mentioned at the bottom of this slide and in the report. This forecast assumes just current sustainment levels of funding, current maintenance day to day, but not any investment to replace any of these capital needs. We just have to assume that you're just sustaining day to day, year to year for 5 years. What's that forecast look like? And again, 2 reasons we do this. It's always good to be looking around the corner, right? To be looking 5 years in advance. But another important factor is that often the order switches. So if you look at those FCIs in 2025, and you're meant to compare them one to the next, this is that relative comparison of FCIs one to another. And the biggest number is worse, right? And so you'd say, well, you would evaluate that just by looking at it. And for instance, like the town hall is fairly low in 2025, but then you see it's sort of toward the upper end in 2030. See, sometimes the order kind of switches because deficiencies are coming into play over those 5 years, and the order can switch. So it's helpful to look 5 years in advance to understand where the FCIs are really going. Bottom, that oval, kind of the second one from the bottom, that's just a summary of the total area, total needs, current replacement value. There's a weighted average FCI score of 7 for your entire inventory, and that climbs to 11, again, assuming no capital investment in 5 years. So all those are important findings and important details. You note the second to last row from the bottom, you see site and infrastructure, and it says excluded from FCI. And they are purposely excluded because those are the site needs, paving, sidewalks, et cetera, around the facility. And we purposely leave those out because the size of the parking lot could vary widely. It could be shared with another building. And so we don't want to pull in those costs and skew the numbers on the building itself in any way. Plus, those calculations are just the current needs for paving, site paving, parking lots and sidewalks. We're not able to forecast 5 years out in advance because we can't understand enough about the conditions underneath to be able to forecast site needs out into the future. So those are a snapshot in time, and they're not part of the FCI calculation. So those total needs in 2025 are a specific list of needs. And here's just a snapshot, a little snippet from a much longer list of needs. And so we're happy to provide this to you. I hope we already did, or if we didn't, we certainly will. This is the list of needs for all these various systems: sanitary waste, exteriors, finished floor, ductwork, carpet, floor finishes, on and on and on and on and on. So these are all the system needs with priorities, high, medium, low, estimated costs, and estimated completion dates. So these are just the first couple of years of forecasts of needs. Those needs then roll up to 4 panels or 4 pages in the report, and listed at the top of this slide, you see those page numbers, pages 17 through 20. And on each page, there's a table. Here's a little bit easier. This one's a little bit easier to see. That's just the first panel of those 4 pages. Let me back up for just a moment. I put them side by side so that you can see you have a full, really 21-year needs assessment. It's the current year, 2025, plus 20 years forecast into the future. On the left column is the Uniformat 2 work breakdown structure. That's just a classification of types of projects, exteriors and interiors, roofing, HVAC, plumbing, et cetera. And then you see the needs year by year by year over 21 years. I've circled the number in the upper right corner of this slide, and it's also in the title, the second line of the title of this slide, 24,207,125. And I divide that by 21 because there are 21 columns of data, which gives you a simple average of 1.2 million per year. This really speaks to an ultimate question that we always ask as facility managers and property owners: how much do I need to budget? How much do I need to plan to spend year by year? And there's a couple of ways to approach that to get an answer to that question. One is to do an empirical study like this one, to go out in the field and make a list. You hired us, and we went out and looked at every facility, made a list of all the needs, and it's itemized like this. Another way to do that is to take a percentage of the current replacement value. Remember that current replacement value I defined a few slides before. There's some benchmarks that have been spoken about within the facility community for 35 years now about percentages of this CRV as recommended investments into facilities on an annual basis. And one of those benchmarks says that you should invest 2% of the current replacement value year by year to be able to recapitalize, renew, keep your facilities in good condition going forward. And I highlight that only because there's pretty good agreement then. If you take 72 million as your current replacement value, take 0.02 times that, you get a number 1.4 million. That's pretty good agreement with the 1.2 million that we saw from this table here, right? So we see pretty good agreement between two ways of coming to the same conclusion about how much is needed. So it's in that 1.2, 1.34 range, something like that. But again, these are hard costs only, right? So you would probably plus that up, maybe with contingency, maybe with soft costs, and be a little bit higher further up. When it came to, evaluating bids at the bid box, they'd probably be a bit higher. But I hope that makes sense. Two ways of approaching the same question: how much to invest? Where there are site needs in the report, and there aren't site needs at every building, but where there are, you'll see pictures like this, pages like this, that show those deficiencies and those needs. In this case, DPW, and that yellow color indicates the need to crack fill, seal coat, and restripe. The purple indicates resurface, basically mill and overlay and replace that asphalt pavement. So where those needs are present, you'll see those in the report, and then there's some pictures to highlight those needs.
What's
just a couple more slides? Yes, sir.
What's the purple?
The purple is resurface asphalt pavement. So that would be to mill, overlay, to tear up or mill and overlay and replace that asphalt. So that's significant. And you see that in the photos, I think, right to the right of the slide.
Yeah.
You see significant degradation. That's not something you can just recover very simply. Let me shift then the discussion to the abbreviated accessibility survey. The second bullet on the slide, the ASTM E2018 standard, is the standard for property condition assessment, and it has an appendix, X1 I think it is, that has a checklist of items to complete an abbreviated accessibility survey. And the purpose of that is just sort of a more, frankly, budget-friendly kind of overview survey of accessibility deficiencies for preparing some capital planning kind of budget figures. And so we use that checklist, we use this standard to do this abbreviated accessibility survey. And it says right in the ASTM standard, this can be followed up by a formal ADA survey, Americans with Disabilities Act survey, as necessary, or to inform, focused research into specific problem areas. But this is kind of a more economical way to give you an overview of your accessibility needs. It follows the same categories as the ADA, and we list those there: parking and accessibility, ramps, entrances, exits, passive travel, elevators, etc. These various categories of needs that are all speak to accessibility. And so in the report then, we list the findings by building, and so you can see each building listed there with the area and the total accessibility needs as recorded. And then we have tables that show the needs, the total needs by campus or by building, by site, and then also by grouping. So those various categories, so that helps you, gives you an idea of where the needs fall by building or by category. And then building by building, there's a list of those needs specifically down to the specific need, whatever it is, whether it's a parking sign or working on a restroom or whatever it might be. So all those are in the report. Well, let me wrap this up with just a few kind of closing slides. So summary, your FCI 7 climbs to 11 in 5 years, assuming no change in funding. I would say gathering this condition data is a very positive demonstration of intent to understand your life cycles, understand your needs, and proactively make your facilities work for you through their life cycles. It's getting a clear understanding of what you need to do over into the future years. So you now have a baseline and blueprint from which to plan forward progress. Some next steps to consider then would be something like now prioritizing among the forecast project needs over 5 years, right? And so you could prioritize by building. You could say these buildings are more important, therefore projects in these buildings should be prioritized higher. You can prioritize by type of system. HVAC is more important than maybe paint or flooring or what have you. You can prioritize that way. You can prioritize by the age of the facility, or age of the system beyond its life cycle. As a system ages, the risk is higher of failure, right? Because it's just extended beyond its life cycle. And so you prioritize, you consider various budget alternatives, and then you run these simulations. You simulate spending a certain budget over 5 years and try to analyze what does that do to the FCI as the master metric, if you will, for the whole inventory of facilities. Does it improve? Does it get better? Does it get worse based on those budget alternatives? You review those outcomes, and ultimately, just a sample here, you develop a 5-year capital plan. By building, fund types, scopes of work, and year by year by year, how would you spend the capital budget needed going forward? Well, that's a completion of my prepared comments, and I hope it's been helpful, and I'm happy to take other questions that you might have.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure, sir.
Question or comments from the board? Member Carboni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for this presentation. I understood some of it, most of it, but my question's pretty simple, and it may be a question for admin in part, which is we already have a capital improvement plan. So how does all this new information, how are we integrating that into what we already have, or how are we integrating what we already have into all this new information? And then who does the prioritizing? So those are my questions. Thank you.
If I may, I would simply say you now have the opportunity to have all this data in a computerized maintenance management system, in a CMMS, right? So you've added a lot of utility to now having this data very accessible to you, forgive the pun, accessible to you in the CMMS. So that makes managing the facilities and these systems going forward quite a bit easier in the forecasting, because you have all that data collected now. So it could be a refinement to whatever capital planning you've already done. And that prioritization, it wasn't part of our scope, and not to be, so we can help with that if that's something you would be interested in pursuing, in helping you prioritize via those various categories and run budget simulations. We've done that in the past, do it regularly, and are able to help with that if that's something you would like to consider going forward.
No, thank you. I mean, just to follow up, I mean, I don't know what the options are, and that question was in part for admin, I think, how we would go about prioritizing.
Well, there's a couple of things. If you look at the current capital plan, we don't have a lot on facilities. There's a lot on rolling stock, there's a lot on marina, but not on the school building or the town hall or this building. We built them in kind of like other things. We fix them as they are needed, as opposed to being proactive in anticipating what's going to be needed. So the roof isn't leaking before we replace it, that type of thing. The other thing that you had brought up a couple of years ago, and I've kind of let it go fallow, but I do at this point, for prioritization and helping with the budget and putting things forward, I think we may want to consider a capital outlay committee.
Yeah.
That would be helpful in hearing from the department leaders, knowing what amount of money may be available, and then putting priorities in as we can. We're certainly not going to be able to do 172 million or whatever in capital improvements in a short period of time, but we do have to set out the priorities. We have HVAC systems that are priority. We have an elementary school that needs a lot of work. That's a priority. The safety in town hall, the lighting and those types of things, while they may fall down on the list, that's a priority too. So I think a capital outlay committee with a good charge and being staffed appropriately, and that doesn't require a full-timer or 20-hour-a-week person, but we have to have somebody able to staff the committee and do the groundwork for the committee as well. That's how I see the long-term implementation of this going forward.
Thank you.
I did have a question, if I could. I knew you'd opened it up to the board, so I don't want to.
No, you can ask your question.
When I'm going back in your reviews, actually one of the first pages, the amount of work in the current, what the replacement value would be in today's dollars. and I look at the elementary school as an example, you've identified about $4 million worth of improvements that need to, in a perfect world, would be completed by 2030. When you looked at the school, did you look at it only from and it's okay, any answer is good, only from the facilities perspective, or did you look at it from the educational needs perspective as well?
From the facility perspective.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes, sir.
That answered it very clearly. Thank you.
Yeah, you're referring to program needs, growth needs, things like that.
Yeah, we have another study going on with a different group that came in with a much higher number for the elementary school, and I just needed to get that clarified. So,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
My only comment is that I think it's a good guide for us to follow and to try to cling to as closely as fiscally possible. We're not in that flush area where we can just say, now we can go fix everything, but I just think that, even though we have a capital plan, this looks very detailed, lays it all out, and something to really work on and prioritize, make those priorities.
Right. One other comment, Mr. Chairman, and then I'll be done. I just wanted to, the amount of effort put in by the DPW, both Pete and Jay and his staff, as well as the flexibility of the Alpha staff when they were up here. It was a good project. We're a little late on the switch because we put the ADA piece in, but it was a really good project, a lot of work.
Does Jay have anything to say about it?
Thanks so much.
I was going to ask if Jay had any parting thoughts for us.
Yeah, very well. But before I give the floor to Jay, I just want to say I think this is a really good step in the right direction. Before I got involved in Wellfleet town government, you'd often hear town meetings and around town that the Wellfleet way was to wait till something was falling apart and then kick it down the can a few more years after that. And I think the proactive approach of being able to be notified when we might need to do preventative maintenance on a facility is excellent. I think this would be really helpful to Jay, but I do want to give Mr. Norton an opportunity to speak if he has anything else to add.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I do have some parting words, and a lot of you guys have already said what I was going to say, but it has been a pleasure to work with Alpha and Brightly on this venture. It has been a long time coming for the town to get a comprehensive review of our facilities and get a clear understanding of what we're up against in the future. So it's been a pleasure working with their team. And I think the biggest thing for us is obviously having this clear picture and trying to prioritize all of these repairs going forward. But in addition to that, the preventative maintenance piece is going to be critical for us to evaluate and keep tabs on certain repairs that we make over time. So one of the biggest things that we did was tag certain utilities with barcodes in all the facilities that will be tied to the software program. So whenever a repair is done or any preventative maintenance repair, it will be tagged onto that, and we'll be able to see that repair and when it was performed and what the cost was, and it will help us understand what items are coming up that, we see we're repairing this HVAC system, every few months. Obviously something's wrong, we need to look into it. So it's just a good way to track things, and I'm really excited to keep this and go forward with the software. So really appreciate all the effort, and that's all I have to say. Thank you, guys.
Could I ask one more?
Many thanks. Good evening to you.
Could I?
We have
one more question?
We have a few more questions. Member lines, please.
Okay, well, Kevin wanted to ask a question, so go ahead, quick.
I'd prefer to hear from the board first, and then we'll
All
go to
right,
the
I
public.
just wanted, you were saying that you had other services, like you would be at our disposal in the future if necessary. What else?
Absolutely. So we're of the conviction that managing this data going forward is one of the most important things to do, right? We've gathered all this data. Now it's going to live in a computerized maintenance management system. And theoretically, that is the platform to manage it going forward. If we can be of any help in managing that data going forward, helping with capital planning, we would be happy to do so. We're really of the conviction that you shouldn't have to come back and do this again in 5 or 10 years, right? You can keep that data current. If you need assistance with doing that, as we find many clients do, because it's challenging to now keep all that data current, we would love to help with that. We have a client for life mentality. We are always here. We will always be accessible and available for you.
Great.
We do a GIS work. We do space planning, a wide variety of services for clients just like you. And we don't do any design work. We're never trying to feed ourselves design work downstream. Even though we're an architect engineer, we don't do design work. So there's no fear that we're trying to feed ourselves some follow-on design.
Into our stuff. Great. Thank you.
Thank you very
Yes,
much. With that, I will open up to public comment if there's anyone in the room or online.
Thanks, Kevin McMahon. First, thank you for including the ADA information on this. I believe this exact data for the cultural district recertification process. This is very helpful. I'm curious about one aspect of your assessment of the facilities. I saw that preservation.
1 second, Kevin. So.
You're just getting going.
I know.
Echo there. So I'm curious about one aspect of the facility list. I saw Preservation Hall on the list, and I know it's used occasionally for town events and things, but is it a town property? And are we responsible for the repairs and upkeep of that building?
I don't think so.
It's
It's a
Pres Hall.
nonprofit.
Pres Hall, you only give use of town property for the garden, so no, it goes.
So it's on the list and it's included in all that data, so.
Well, we own the building.
The parking lot.
We own the parking lot.
Well, if you look at I looked at it this morning, and there's information about the facility repairs on there. So it's the numbers are wrong.
We could share it with them.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay,
Thank you.
good to know.
Very
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
It is very good to
Appreciate
know.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a lease with the town.
It's a lease
Yeah, it's
of the structure.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from board or town administration?
No, thank
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is wonderful.
Really good. Excellent.
We are, as I said earlier, we are not going to be reviewing the construction phases of Lieutenant Island Road, so we're moving on to business item E, to establish a date and location for fall town meeting. Mr. Moderator, would you like to participate? You don't have to? You don't have to if you don't want to?
Come on up here, Danny.
Very well.
Can I just make a brief comment? I think this assessment is absolutely fantastic and about 20 years overdue, but I'm very impressed with that.
Yeah.
One thing they do have wrong is the South Wellfleet Fire Station was not built in 1901. That was 1975. On their list of when the buildings were constructed, I happened to notice that, so I hope that's the only error.
It just looks like it's 1901.
It just looks like
from lack of
It's in
upkeep,
the
it looks
shape
like
that it was built in
No,
1901.
it was built in 1975, and it was built by all local labor at the time. I remember it very well. So, anyway.
Okay.
Very well. So fall town meeting. I believe the discussion has been circling around October 26th at the elementary school, I would imagine.
Well, that was one of the questions I wanted to bring to the board was, as we talked about this briefly when we were looking at venues for the Springtown meeting. We do have the option of using the Eastham, the new auditorium at the high school. There's part of me that would like to try that. It's a more comfortable venue in a lot of ways. I think we would not have to set up a sound system. The seats are certainly more comfortable. We met at the Nauset High School from probably 1973 until the gym was built, the new gym was built at the elementary school, which I think was about 1992 or something like that. So for about a 20-year period, we met there. The pros are that it's a more comfortable venue, obviously. The arguments against it are, would it be more difficult for our population to get there? How would we work out childcare and so forth? So I don't know if there's a good way of polling the public as to what their preference would be. I guess the only thing would be to try it and see what kind of a response we get, or to put that out, let this board know that you're thinking about it. Have you let the public know that we're thinking about that? You don't have to decide on a date on a venue until you actually publish the warrant, obviously. But I think it's worth considering as to whether or not that might be a more comfortable place to meet. The gym has its limitations, obviously, but that's a decision for you to make. So.
Excellent. Any questions or comments from the board? I have a question. The auditorium, what's the capacity?
It's about 700.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's more than the gymnasium.
Right.
Yes, considerably.
More than we need.
Yeah, and probably more than we need. And I would hope that we wouldn't have to use the balcony, that we could just use the auditorium, maybe put non-voters in the balcony or something like that. But in conversation with Jackie Beebe before she retired, when we were looking at this last fall, they still use they set up in their gym because they do get in excess of 500, 600, 700 people at their meetings on a regular basis. Our feeling was that if every seat in that gym in the auditorium were filled, it would not be a comfortable meeting. But our meeting last spring was 600, and that was more than I've ever seen a town meeting by a factor of almost 50%. So I think it's unlikely we'd ever come close to maxing out the auditorium at the high school. And, from a philosophical standpoint, we've all paid for that in school as taxpayers, and I think it would be nice to get some use out of it, so.
Sure.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
John's fine. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You can go ahead. Thank you.
Just to refresh my memory, what was the turnout for the last town?
It was just shy of 600. I think it was 588 or 592 or something.
So we would have been okay there.
Yeah, yes, we would have.
Yeah, through the chair. I guess this is a question for all of us. As part of this discussion, can we talk about how well the satellite room worked? Because I think that is a consideration. If we were to find that was less than ideal, I think that would argue in favor of the auditorium. If we found that it worked just fine and the turnout was, I had been very concerned in the spring that the turnout would exceed the capacity altogether, so I was in favor of just going to the school. It seems we can handle it, but I would like for there to be discussion of whether that satellite situation worked out well, which I still think is really less than ideal from the get-go.
Does anyone on the board have any thoughts on that?
No, I think it would be worth our while to put out there that we're thinking of having town meeting at Nauset High School, and we will be happy to hear from the public through email. Stop on in and record your feeling about it, however they wish to do it, call it in, and let the voters decide. But it would be interesting to do. We might like it.
The seats are a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, people might, and just for the novelty of it, you might get more people just to see how it goes. And the other thing that I liked that I heard you say is they have a balcony, so there would be, for non-voting residents, a comfortable place for them to sit as opposed to the bleachers.
Yes.
So right there, we have yes votes coming in. I can feel it.
Well, I'm assuming that people watch these meetings and go back and review them and so forth. And
right.
If as you talk to people and put it out there, if the public becomes aware that it's something that you're thinking of, I hope that maybe you'll get some feedback and make a decision. You'll probably need to close that warrant sometime around the second week in September, I would guess, so that
we
gives
would
you a little
know
bit of time to get some
2 or
feedback.
3 weeks.
So.
Ms. Rule?
How many people typically take advantage of the child care?
Not that many, sadly. I think at this last meeting, probably more than we've had. My wife said she saw, they were out back, using the playground because it was still light out. I think she said there might have been a dozen kids or something like that, but that was the exception. It's been only, 1 or 2 or 3 at the most. I wish it were more, but.
To follow up?
Yeah.
Would it be possible to, if we did decide to use the school, to include the use of, say, a classroom or
That's something we'd have to investigate, obviously. We have to talk to the people at the school, find out what kind of facilities they have, what they're willing to open up. We do know what we have here in town, that we have the after-school program has a play. I've forgotten exactly what it's called, but they have a facility there that they've made available to us, and we have a certified person who can manage that, and that's worked out well. I wish more people would take advantage of it. That's again, this goes back to my longstanding argument for Saturday meetings versus nighttime meetings. Would we get more families with kids who could come on a Saturday as opposed to coming at night? There are arguments both ways. I mean, you'll hear some parents say, we're busy with soccer, we're busy with baseball, we're busy with whatever it is we do on Saturdays, or we're working on Saturdays, and then the other argument is we can't come at night because our kids have homework and they've got to go to bed early. So there's no perfect time to have town meeting that isn't going to disadvantage somebody. I know the shell fishermen sometimes say if you have a meeting during the day and it happens to fall, at some point, if it's a long meeting, at some point you're going to hit low tide. So what do the shellfishing community do for a daytime meeting, whereas they're not likely to be shellfishing at night? So there is no perfect answer to that, unfortunately.
Right.
So there's a number of different topics here. So at least in terms of a venue, I do think there's value in having a town meeting take place in the town it's in or for. That's long been my feeling. I don't know if we would be having that same level of turnout unless there's expected warrant articles that might generate it. And then but one issue with the elementary school in particular is really the parking situation that happens there, especially when there's a large number of attendees. There's just not enough parking for people to park in. And I know this year we had the shuttle, but we also have people. I mean, let's face it. Wellfleet is an older community, and people have limited mobility, and not have some place for them to park and easily access the building is an issue. In terms of the childcare thing, and I've argued it before, is I really do think that Saturday meetings are better. It's unreasonable to expect parents to come attend a town meeting and then go till 11 o'clock, especially if they have kids and let's say being watched by, then they're keeping their kids up to 11 plus. And I really just think that, a Saturday meeting, I know there's downsides with Saturdays, but I don't think weekday meetings are the best, especially for families that we want to participate more in these meetings. So, and yes, there's some sport events or things of that nature, but not everybody is doing the same sport at the same time. And even if you don't capture all of them, you'll capture a lot more than you would by having a meeting that goes till 11 o'clock at night.
Member Cavoni?
Yeah, through the chair, I understand all those arguments, but in Truro, town meetings on Saturdays, and there are people who consistently say that that does not work for them due to family activities on those days. So I think the moderator's correct, that there will always be arguments on both sides.
Yeah, so Truro has their meetings consistently on Saturday, right?
Saturdays,
Yeah.
yep.
I know a number of
Saturdays
other
in a-
towns do that as well.
Yeah, in a tent at great expense
Yeah.
outdoors every year, so.
Yeah.
Do you know what the, if I may, I'm sorry.
Member Lyons?
Do you know what the attendance is usually at the meeting?
Probably around, starts at maybe 400 plus, declines during, it's a smaller year-round population too, obviously.
So it's
but
a good turnout.
It's a good turnout. We don't typically have a fall town meeting, so everything is on that. You've got your budget, and then you have your controversial, zoning articles or
Right.
whatnot. So there is reason for people to turn out.
Eastham only has one town meeting, too.
Mr. Wolf?
Is there any point to including proposing a Saturday meeting when we reach out to people for input?
Absolutely. I
I
mean,
think,
see
if they're
see
gonna
what people,
answer.
see what people think. I mean, the one real positive about a Saturday meeting is, starting a meeting at something like, 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, you're virtually certain to get it done in one day. Barbara disagrees.
Not necessarily. It's gone to 2 days, at least 2 of the past 5 years since.
Well, again, I think where we've split our meetings,
Yes.
And
Right.
divided in
Correct.
two.
Absolutely correct.
I think you have less of a,
Right.
the warrant is not 50 or 60
Right.
articles long, and I think that's one of the virtues of.
Sure.
And again, as, the town administrator is pointing out, when there is the beauty of having a scheduled second annual meeting in the fall is if a budgetary issue comes up that you've got to deal with, you've already built that in to the schedule. You can deal with that without having to call a special meeting, uncertain about the date. I mean, granted it was my proposal, but I think it was a good, a good move to go to two meetings. Brewster does, I know a number of other towns on the Cape use 2 annual town
Right.
meetings. It's a fairly common practice.
No, I mean, through the chair, I support that.
Yeah.
I did. And I still do.
Well, I'm pretty much agnostic in terms of what the board chooses. People are certainly comfortable with Wellfleet, the gym. Our normal attendance is somewhere between 200 to 300. A meeting of 400 people is unusual. 600 is unprecedented. I think it's unlikely we're going to see that kind of a turnout again unless there's something, that drives that kind of attendance. So we can certainly handle a meeting in the one room at the school without having to go to the overflow room. I think the overflow room worked about as well as it could have been expected. I think the town staff did a fantastic job of figuring out how to make that work, and I think people were pretty patient in terms of dealing with the glitches that might have happened. But
One moment, Mr. Moderator. Gabriel?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Yeah, please.
yes.
I thought we were having a technical issue. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Just to identify myself, I work for Media Services, and I did the sound for town meeting last year with a few other people. And the glitch that we encountered, I was able to determine it was a hardware issue that if we decide to do it again, just as a point of information for everyone, that I'm confident that it will work a lot more smoothly next year. That's all.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gabe.
So it sounds like we should be doing a bit of community outreach. We'll definitely have a meeting August 16th.
Okay.
Is it
18th, excuse me, August 18th. So it sounds like we might just want to move this to that date to make a decision. I'd love to know what are the ancillary costs that we might incur. I imagine we might want to provide transportation. Is there any kind of rental fee?
The school does not charge for the use of the school. We might have to pay one of their people to run their audio system.
Yep.
Because we're not familiar with that. I can try to find out, get some idea of.
That'd be really
It
helpful.
might be a little hard to get that because they use the gym and they rent floor coverings for the gym, they rent chairs and all of that, and I don't see us doing that. So, I mean, I don't imagine the costs would be greatly different than what they are here. If we wanted to provide transportation the way we did for this meeting, it would involve paying some drivers to staff the 2 vans that the town has.
Anything else from the board?
Just trying to look it up, but there's an amount of time that you have to set the town meeting ahead of. Do you remember what that is?
Well, the warrant has to be posted 14 days before the meeting.
Yeah.
But we notify people by postcard so they can get their warrants, and the warrants need to get printed. But in terms of a legal requirement, the posting only needs to be 14 days ahead.
Well, there's the posting, but that, you have to specify the date, because people can do initiative petitions.
Well, right.
So there is a specified time that you have to go back to and you work. I can't look it up.
Well, the initiative petitions for an annual town meeting need to be submitted 60 days before the meeting. So if we're going to have an October 26th meeting, people need to know about that because you need to pick a date. So sometime in the middle of August, third week in August, give or take, is the cutoff for initiative petitions, 60 days before the date of the meeting.
Yeah. Would we be comfortable as a board setting the date this evening and then determining the location in a few weeks?
But through the chair, the date means we will decide, that we're deciding weeknight as opposed to a Saturday?
Yes.
So, okay.
Yeah, correct.
If we're talking about the date, yeah, I mean, you've already, my feelings is really a Saturday. I would like to do a survey, at least for the future. We can do it at least through the elementary school, that we could actually survey the parents. I don't know if you could capture the middle and high school easily or not. But then the other part is I'm not really sure about the 26th. I'd be a little bit more comfortable with the first week in November, unless there's something that's driving that.
Setting the tax rate is driving that and getting the bills out. I would prefer it to be in November also, but because you do a semi-annual billing and not a quarterly billing, it just.
Can't you delay the billing? We've had delayed billings a number of years.
Yeah, last year we ran into a real cash flow problem. And that was with the annual, okay,
Yeah.
but we ran into almost having to do a short-term note because we were waiting for cash to come in. But the treasurer was able to figure it out. But the latest, staff, they would like it earlier in October. I think the end of October is probably a good compromise. It allows us to get the bills out where the tax collector isn't working Christmas Eve till midnight collecting books or New Year's Eve till midnight type of thing. Not that they would stay till midnight, but you know what I mean. Saturdays, that's up to the board. We're happy to work whenever you set the meeting. But I wouldn't put it into November.
So through the chair to Ryan, so you would like to have some input from the public on Saturday versus weeknight before we set the date?
I mean, if it's the inclination of the board to set a date tonight, that would be fine. But I think at the very least, we should put out something, a survey of the families to.
Right, I would support waiting until we have some input on Saturday versus Tuesday to setting the date, so I would prefer to wait to set the date.
And then, sorry, Mr. Chair. The other part is if we're going to be, we would have to close the warrant if it was when it is, I forget, I don't know. But basically, we would have to have at least an additional meeting in August to start reviewing the warrant. It usually takes more than one crack to do a warrant. it's not uncommon for it to take three different meetings to review. And, it's just, part of the things that drives schedules is really, that you also have to cover your regular business items as well as covering a warrant, so.
I just put it on the website, it's on the top thing, asking for Saturday versus Monday.
Yeah,
Elementary school versus high school.
If I may, I don't want us to swirl an indecision for this upcoming meeting. I think this is an appropriate conversation possibly for Springtown meeting or the next Fall Town meeting.
Okay.
So, I would be comfortable moving forward on setting a date. I think it's worth waiting a few weeks to decide on a location. I'm personally very open to using the auditorium. I think there's some really good reasons to use the auditorium at the high school. But I will, indulge my colleagues if they feel like they would like to set the date. To me, October 26th seems reasonable, and we have enough time to get a warrant together for that meeting. And so, take a
For what
motion
it's worth, Mr. Chair, I agree, but
a member of the
as a
public,
member of
please.
the public.
Yes, good evening, Chris Allgaier. Just a question, if we use the Nauset Auditorium, do we need to tell them in advance and pencil in, aside from what the legal requirement is? I'd hate to compete with the Sound of Music or something like that on a
I was
school
going to
play.
say,
So, yeah.
if, once you decide on a date, I think we need to check with the school and make sure. The legal requirement is not only that it be available to us, but we actually have to ask the school, the Nauset Regional School Committee, for permission to use that facility. That's the special legislation that was passed in 1972 authorizes the town to have its meeting at the high school with the approval of the Regional School Committee.
So we haven't vetted the 26th with them yet.
I'm sorry, say that again?
We haven't vetted this date, this tentative October 26th date with the school yet. We don't know if they're
Correct.
available.
Mr. Chair.
Please.
I feel that since this is our sort of midterm meeting, that we just go along with the 26th here. And for the Springtown meeting, we could then have more time, and at that meeting,
Maybe.
you could say, we're thinking of having our Springtown meeting at the school. How does everybody feel about that?
Right.
They could just hold up their cards and, have an informal vote as the mood
It
of
could be an
the...
advisory article on
It
the
could be an
warrant.
advisory article on the warrant.
It could
What
be
do
the
you think?
last article
It
on
could
the
be-
warrant.
that's
That'll
right.
keep people.
I
That
had
might
actually
keep people
intended
there.
to ask that at the end of the last meeting. I think everybody was so exhausted, I just forgot.
Yeah, right, including yourself, probably. So that's my suggestion.
I'll entertain a motion if there's no more discussion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we establish a Fall Town meeting to be October 26th at the Wellfleet Elementary School with further consideration of other venues for our Springtown meeting.
Second?
Just for discussion. Is there a reason it's a Wednesday? Normally, our town meetings are not Wednesday.
It's a Monday.
It's Monday. All right, sorry, I was looking at the calendar wrong. All right, cool. All right, that satisfies me, but just if we do use the high school, we have to check with also the following evening in case,
Well, we're going to find out
The
in
motion was
October
for-
if people want it. The motion is to have it at
Motion is
this,
the elementary school.
Yeah.
is the elementary school here.
Any more discussion? Take a roll call vote, please.
Ryan, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
John, I.
Josh, aye. 26th at the elementary
Okay,
school.
good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thanks, Dan.
Moving on to business F, continued discussion of pre-existing use of town property at the marina.
So I will be brief. We discussed this ad nauseum last time, and we haven't really resolved the issue. So it's back on the agenda for discussion. I don't want to go into the nuances of what was discussed last time, but we do need to make a policy decision on what we're doing with those pieces of property. I have a number of questions for the board, but I think the first question we need to ask is, does this board want to permit that activity as a use of town property at the marina? I think once we have established that, we can talk about the mechanism to license that activity, but I think that's one issue that we've never really broached. We've just gone to the next step during our last discussions, and I think we really need to discuss that. I did a little bit of research. This is done very differently in different towns, depending on what town you're looking at. There's revocable licenses. There's, in Provincetown, they actually rent the spaces out. They're town-owned spaces, but they're similar in terms of the structure. But to the board, I think we need to revisit the issue and talk about what this board wants to do in terms of, A, permitting that activity, and if so, how do you wish to license it or permit it? There are different avenues to take, but we need to talk about the first question first.
So, Member Carboni.
Mr. Chairman, were you going to comment first?
I should not comment
Okay,
first, but I do
sure.
have comments to the chair.
Sure. So thank you. I'm in favor of permitting the use of town property as long as it's subject to a licensing type procedure, similar to what we did for the max use of that beach area. Thank you.
Obviously, I think that we should permit it. There's always been, booths at the pier. I remember like when the Navigator was still running, and they would have a booth and things like that. It's very common for marinas in areas that attract a lot of recreational visitors to have booths on the pier, either for, commercial charters or for other activities that are associated with it, so.
I agree. I think that we should allow,
Yeah, I don't think there's any question.
yeah.
So I strongly feel like we should allow pre-existing use. I strongly feel like there should be a fee associated with that.
Yes.
I do think the appropriate next step is to ask Marina Advisory to develop a policy in conjunction with the harbor master and then bring that policy proposal back to the board.
That's a good idea.
I think that's appropriate. I think that that's why Marina Advisory exists.
The one question I would pose to the board, and that question is the question of who should be eligible for these spaces.
So-
The question is, and this is the same question that I've seen in other towns, is it a valuable space that should be open to the public, or is it related directly to the activities of the boat that is adjacent to it, meaning the marine activities that the slip holder is involved in? That's a very big difference between the two. But again, a question for the board.
So through the chair, I mean, if the board agrees with the chair that this is a good question for Marina Advisory, then that's the sort of thing that they would give advice on. I just want to go back to something you just said, that pre-existing uses should be allowed. Are you saying that the existing uses should continue without the sort of licensing process that we've been talking about?
No, well, I'm suggesting that any use of town property should require some form of fee associated with it.
Right.
The mechanism for that fee, I'm not sure I have a strong opinion on. And so, similar to every slip in the marina, for example, there's a lease. It doesn't go to procurement. It's not, out to auction every year where someone gets to bid on that. Once you have that slip, you can continue that.
Yeah,
That's true. So that's the way I see it is there's pre-existing use, and that needs to be decided, and we need to have a fee schedule for that. I think we need to, as a community, decide, do we want to have other uses that don't currently exist? Do we want to utilize more marina property for future uses? I have my own personal opinions on that, but I'd like to hear what Marina Advisory has. And in terms of eligibility and a list of other questions is I think why Marina Advisory exists, and I'd like for them to develop a policy to come back to the select board for.
Right. Through the chair, if I could follow up, I'm not sure I understand fully. I think that we all agree the space, there should be space available, but I would not give preference, which I think is what you're suggesting, by the use of the word pre-existing. I don't think an existing occupant is entitled to that space. I think this is what's subject to the process that you're talking about developing through Marina Advisory and their advice. What are the uses? And it should be, competitive and open to anyone. That's what we did with Max. We didn't say, we're going to immediately negotiate an agreement with Max. What we said was, we need to see what other proposals there are. So that's the process I assume we're all talking about.
Mr. Wolf?
No.
Yeah. Couple of points. One, I'm, as liaison to the Marina Committee, I'm prepared to bring that to them. I had previously wondered why we would do that, but because I mentioned to Tom that we didn't do that in the case of Max. Well, Tom wasn't the TA then, and he pointed out that we probably should have. So I'm fine with that. I can bring that to them.
Yeah, we could write,
And,
you could write that.
and I would want to do that.
questions,
I would want to do that without undue delay, so we could get the process started. The other, to John's point, through the chair, the value of the property based on adjacent, well, in Mac's case, it was the value of the property on which those picnic tables sit, based on the restaurant, which is property that they own. I don't see any difference, frankly. So.
I mean, as far as setting the license fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And following the same process, which was a lease process.
And how do you feel about a pre-existing?
So.
Well, I haven't finished yet. In Mac's case, that was a pre-existing use, but we made them bid on a lease. Initially, we issued a license because we weren't going to shut them down just in the middle of the season, but we did put that out to a lease.
Mr. Curley?
I think doing long-term leases is extremely problematic here. I do think doing a fee schedule is a much simpler approach, but if we do a long-term lease, we have to have approval by town meeting for each individual portion of a property that is going to be subject to a long-term lease or a long-term license agreement. It has to be an annual, otherwise it gets really complicated very quickly. I don't know if, requesting a number of proposals is really the best way to go. I think my interest is more allowing for ways of people that are conducting commercial activities at the marina to have a means of having a booth. There used to be way more booths down there than there are now. I'm not sure exactly how many. I just remember, because I was a kid, there was quite a few. There was at least 3 or 4 charter booths, and then you had the Navigator and Wellfleet Marine and things of that nature. And I think just having a way for people to have that same opportunity, if they want to pay the town for that ability to do so, I think would make a lot of sense. But I think as soon as you go into a long-term lease, it's going to be much more complicated than it might seem.
Mr. Wolf?
I have no objection to setting a fee schedule instead of a lease, as long as we apply that evenly. We would have to then revisit the situation with Max, just to be fair.
Max is a very different situation. It's a much larger piece of property, and it's a pretty large piece of property.
Well, we could set the fee schedule appropriate to the size of it.
And to the business at hand.
I think this deliberation is exactly why I'd like to have Marine Advisory weigh in.
I agree.
I mean, currently there are 2 structures and there's a signage board, right? So there's one board where there's commercial signage. There's 2 structures. The question becomes, does Marine Advisory believe that there is capacity for more structures or not? What the fee should be? I think we need to, we're going to talk about this later in about, probably 30 minutes, but parking. Every structure that gets placed in the marina takes away parking spots. And so I think we need to really get strong advice from Marine Advisory on how we should proceed with this. But I think we're all in agreement that the pre-existing structures should be allowed to remain. They do need to pay a fee. And then we can make decisions on what we want to do with more structures or not in the future.
Going to Marine Advisory makes more and more sense.
Yep, I
Right,
agree.
Yeah, me through the chair. I mean, I agree, and it makes sense for the pre-existing structures to stay there, and continue to be used. But if we're not making any other space available, to me, that's problematic. If the determination comes back from Marine Advisory, no additional space should be used, then we're back in the same situation we were with Max, and we put them through this process of having to bid on the property that they likewise had been using for a long time. So I think there still is that suggestion, and I look forward to seeing what Marina Advisory comes up with.
I think if I recall correctly, the issue was that the land in which they were occupying was over a certain monetary threshold that required procurement.
Through the chair, I don't think, it was not simply, it was not a question of the value, it was the question that there had never been any kind of process whereby other uses, because I was on the board at the time, there was never any, there'd never been any process to say that this particular vendor was entitled to use this to the exclusion of any other. So it did not have to do with the threshold, a dollar threshold, it had to do with kind of a fairness issue.
Fair enough.
Just,
Mr. Bugby.
this is, and I think you're getting at, this is a complicated issue. There's 30B involved, there's assessments involved, there's use of town property involved, there's whether a revocable license still requires town meeting approval, like select board member stated. And I think it's all complicated issue. Whether Marine Advisory can work through that, I'm willing to try. I just know that in my short time looking at this, looking at all the different parameters, elements, and components to this issue, I think they'll need some guidance, but we're willing to provide that for sure.
Thank you. So I'm prepared to make a motion
Go for it.
if the board would entertain it. So I move to direct the Marine Advisory Committee to work with the Harbor Master and Town Administration to develop and recommend a policy and fee schedule for commercial use of town property at the marina, inclusive of pre-existing structures, new structures, and commercial signage, to the Select Board no later than October 31st. And that's important. I think we do need to put a time constraint so that we get precisely right.
Yeah, and so they know, we may not accept all or part of it. But we do want to hear what their thoughts are. And it might be a lot that we're not thinking about.
Do I have a second to that
Second.
motion?
Second.
Do we have any further discussion on that?
I'll just, I'll bring it to them. I'll be talking to Kevin soon.
Roll call vote, please.
Ryan, aye.
Lions, aye.
Barbara, aye.
John, aye.
Josh, aye.
All right, before we move on, I would really like administration to kind of lay out the different options that are available to the Marine Advisory Committee and kind of what they would operate under between a lease or a license procurement, how it's done. What you've seen from other towns, I think would also be helpful because you've already done that research and things of that nature.
Through the chair. Shall I work with them so I'll have something to bring to the committee?
I'm sorry, I'm
Well, I
answering
think
the question.
If I may, I think Mr. Bugby can interface directly with Marine Advisory.
Okay.
It's worth mentioning, I know I'm trying my best not to prolong this issue, but the last thing I'll say, I have done a significant amount of homework. I was trying to be brief tonight, knowing that there's so many different avenues this issue can take. But having said what we've said in terms of guidance to provide Marine Advisory, I'm confident I can put this in a form that I can provide them that will give them the framework to make a good decision. So I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Moving on to business G, which is to discuss paid parking. Mr. Administrator, would you like to begin? You sent us a memo, I don't remember if it was today or yesterday.
Well, before, and I'm going to turn this to John because he's been the workhorse on this, but before we move forward with alternatives and costs and possible revenue streams or whatever, we need to know what the board wants us to do. When the consultant came in, we had originally talked about 4 various parking areas. Town Hall, Pres Hall, the Marina, and there was one other.
Main Street.
Main Street, I'm sorry. I can't fathom that we can't get people to park the right way in the parking lots on Main Street. I don't know how we're going to do ticket enforcement, but we need to know, because it makes a difference how we scale this, as to what the board is looking for. We have recommended I have recommended, I don't want to speak for John, the Marina and Pres Hall, because they're pretty easy to do. I did have a person come into Town Hall today. It's parking related, so I want to bring it up. As we look at this, there's so much business in Town Hall, there's so much business in town this time of year that people are having trouble getting a parking place to come into Town Hall and do business. Maybe during this thought process, we consider 2 or 3 spots for 15 or 20 minutes for Town Hall business, that's all.
So, just real quickly, Mr. Chair, hopefully you had a chance to read my memo. What I tried to do is identify the key areas that I think administration needs guidance on. I think of the 8 criteria, the most important criteria are, do you want to move forward with a pilot program, or do you want to move forward with full implementation of paid parking? I think those are 2 very different approaches, and that will guide what we do going forward. I also would want to know how are we going to roll out the public component of this piece? There's going to be a PR piece educating people. How are we going to deal with the town resident / town employee issue as it relates to paid parking? I won't go into all my criteria, but I think the memo speaks for itself in terms of the guidance that we're looking for.
Mr. Curley?
So I really think that we need to do a pilot first. I don't want to go, feet first and then, to a full implementation. And it's much better to work out any kinks that might occur on a smaller profile than it does for, everywhere all at once. In terms of the location, I really don't think that you can do one of the center of town parking lots without doing the other. You're just going to put a huge amount of pressure from, people that might not be parking at the Pres Hall parking lot into the center of town parking lot. If that one's still free, I think you have to do, if you're going to do the center of town, you have to do both lots at the same time. I think the center of town is easier than the Marina might be in terms of a setup. But, I'm open to whatever. I just think if you're doing one, you have to do both there.
I have a question, if I may.
Go right ahead.
I don't understand what a pilot program would be. Can you help me understand
Sure.
what that looks like to you?
I think what a pilot program would represent is a short period of time where we're going to do paid parking with a start and an end, followed by an assessment period on what worked, what didn't work, what would we do differently if we did a full rollout of it, and kind of work through what you learned in that short period of time. I realize it's paid parking, so it's still paid parking, right? It's not like you're doing it in a petri dish. You're actually out there getting people to pay for parking. So I understand that, but in terms of learning from it and doing better as a full rollout, that would be the approach.
So, if I may, I imagine this would be, even if we did a full rollout, this would be seasonal, similar to how Provincetown does it, which in and of itself is a fairly short window. And we couldn't do a pilot program outside of peak season because we do need visitors.
Yep. Right.
So I'm not really seeing the benefit of a pilot versus rolling this out, knowing that we're going to, please, liberalize.
Well, I do know that the town of Falmouth did do what's the word we were just talking about?
Paid parking.
Pilot program, thank you. Went right out of my head. And it rolled into a permanent thing, but they were able to address certain concerns. They did see where maybe they didn't have to do it there. I do think the downtown is a good place to start because I was on the last of, I think, 4 parking committees, and the marina involves businesses as well, not just the marina. I mean, everybody parks there to go to the theater, they go to the restaurants, they go walking, So it's a different thing, and how can that happen? Maybe it's contributions from different businesses, I don't know. But I think it should be something separate, not on the first bite at the apple, but I do think that a pilot program, seasonal, obviously it's not this year, but we could work on it to see if we could get something in place. And, the other thing that comes up is when you have, some people can leave their cars and go to the beach, get an Uber, and then that parking space is there. And also, people, for the businesses themselves, they don't get the turnover if people leave their car. So it's good to keep it going and for people to be able to not just get into town hall, but to be able to shop and get out.
Mr. Wolf?
Yeah, I guess I'm the outlier here. I think that the marina is the overriding need for implementing paid parking, and I don't think it should be a trial balloon. I think we need to come up with a plan. It shouldn't be rocket science to provide just slip holders and mooring holders who already get a tag to put on their boats to get one to put on their cars, and otherwise come up with a mechanism for assessing parking fees and make it happen. The Marina Enterprise Fund desperately needs all the help it can get, and this would be one big mechanism to help with that.
The only other thing, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, real quickly, you asked me what would be helpful in a pilot program. I think you learned about unintended consequences that you maybe didn't anticipate. I think you limit your risk in terms of versus full implementation. You have a limited amount of risk if it doesn't go well. You can look at your numbers to make sure that we anticipate getting $300K in parking revenue per the Desmond study. You can see if your numbers are matching up. And I think the last one is the most important one. It allows for a public feedback component. So at the end of the pilot program, you can come back and say, okay, folks, public, what worked, what didn't work, and what can we do better?
Yeah.
That's all.
I appreciate that. I'm familiar with what a pilot program can do. I'm just not, but it's something where we're going to have feedback loops anyways. It's going to be the same capital expenditure to get this up and running. And so what we're doing is it won't. I don't understand. I don't know how.
Well,
the infrastructure would be close.
If you did a pilot, you're only going to be putting hardware, if you will, into 1 or 2 areas. If you do it town-wide, you're going to put hardware in 3 or 4 areas.
Well,
and that's your cost.
There are a number of communities that have just an app-based pay-by-plate. So I'm trying to understand.
Where you can pay by plate, you also can pay in display.
Right.
No, I'm just trying to work this through because I would be much more in favor of a pay-by-plate through an app-based system than investing in hardware that's going to
And these are all the
depreciate.
questions that.
Right, but not everybody is going to have an app. Not everybody uses apps. You and I use apps, and 99% of the people use apps, but a lot of people don't, and they will pay by card.
I mean, I'm just thinking, like Provincetown's a great example of this. There's a tremendous number of paid parking spaces in the town of Provincetown where there is absolutely no pedestal within accessible anywhere close to that.
Right, because they'd use the app.
Correct. And that to me is working just fine. And so if the board wants to do a pilot, I'm not going to fall on my sword for this. I'm just trying to understand, if it's 90% of the effort to only get 50% of the benefit.
One other point is, it's a little bit more digestible for the public. I mean, this has been resisted for a long time. So if you say we're going to give it a try, if it fails, we'll find out. If it's not worth our while of what we obtain in revenue, but then we can pull it back. And that's a little bit easier to accept than, and it may turn around that the next year we're saying, it worked great, we're in, and then it's a permanent thing, but at least as we're implementing it initially, it might be helpful. That's just my feeling.
Mr. Wills?
Yeah, I've never been convinced that we should do townwide parking. I've always felt that the marina is really where we need to start this and maybe where we need to keep it.
Well, Mr. Chair.
So to me, a pilot is more of a limited geographic scope rather than a period of time. The marina is complicated, and if we're going to say that, all right, all slip holders are going to be permitted to park there without paying an additional fee, the density of paid parking that is going to be occurring there would be less than elsewhere. I'm not saying it's not a bad location to implement a paid parking that pays into the Marina Enterprise Fund, but if that is where we're going to be doing a pilot, then the Marina Enterprise Fund would also be responsible for the entirety of the initial startup costs. Because if it was going to the enterprise, it has to be accounted that way. I think if we're going to really try it at a level that we can actually take a gauge of if it's going to work or not, and what the financial benefits may or may not be, the center of town is the easiest area to do it in. I just think at the marina, I mean, if you're doing paid parking, one way to look at it as rolling it out through phases. And to me, the marina is just a more complicated animal than basically areas where there's transitory parking. And that's primary current use. I would like to do paid parking eventually at the marina. I just think that if we're going to be doing a pilot in an initial phase, the center of town makes the most sense.
I agree.
Thank you. And just going to question number 2, on the memo, purpose and objectives. To me, the objective is generating revenue, and I think it's, which to me suggests that, building on what Ryan said, the Main Street area, those 2 parking lots, because there is a lot of turnover there, and those are transient visitors, and that is, I think, where we're going to make some money if we do this. So I would be in favor of a pilot being one or both of those
Which line?
Well, the ones both off of Main Street, so I guess Pres Hall and the Town Hall ones. That's where I think we could see some revenue, and I would be in favor of that.
So that question actually made me think of John's memo. So In our comprehensive financial policies, there's a policy about new revenue sources. And we kind of, and that it's reflective of what happened with the short-term rental revenues that basically were committed before we had any discussion about what we might or might not want to use those funds for. They were committed by boards that were before I joined the board, they had been committed as basically how they were going to fund the budget, and so that's how they justified spending down like the ambulance reserve fund and all these other funds, was that they were going to make it up in a future year through the short-term rental revenue, and you know, basically but there was a lot of other people that wanted to see that revenue be used for other purposes as well. And so as part of that, you know, our comprehensive financial policies kind of say, you know, that we kind of have a discussion around what we might utilize the new revenue sources for. But to me, I mean, you know, generating revenue is very important, especially if we're looking at, you know, we know that, you know, the tax revenues are not going to keep up with expenses. And the revenue that we generate from paid parking, if it's 300,000 and, you know, we're paying 100,000, let's say, in terms of implementing running the program annually, that's basically, I mean, it's not a huge amount of money, it's 200,000. But that's basically, you know, two positions that don't necessarily have to get cut. And that's kind of how I'm kind of looking at it. I mean, and the other thing that I was thinking on my way here is that, yeah, these might seem like small amounts of money, but if you add enough small amounts of money together, because this comes up with every single debate when we have a fee, is a small amount. But when you add it all together, it adds up to something at the end of the day. So, you know, I really think that we need to utilize these funds at least to support the staff. The parking at the marina, that's a different animal. Those funds should go into the Marina Enterprise Fund that are generated there in excess of the amount it costs to, you know, run the program at the marina. But, yeah.
My take is parking could be the primary revenue source of snow and ice removal, which would then free up the general fund for other purposes. But I don't fully recall what the average expenditure of sand and salt is in plowing.
You know,
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I think this will be a great discussion to have, what to do with the money. We don't need we don't need to decide that now, do we?
No, I think it would be good to see how much we make.
Yeah, so
you can't really do that because it goes in, once the revenue is recognized and it goes into the general fund, it's automatically included for the following year. So you kind of do, we don't need to decide it tonight.
No, we don't have to
That's all I
decide this
mean.
tonight yet, and it's
That's-
getting, we're
We don't
moving
need to
on.
decide on that tonight, but I think,
You could, through the chair, I'm sorry, Barbara. I didn't
it's
mean
fine,
to interrupt.
yeah.
You could also put it as funds reserved for appropriation. You could set it up for that kind of account while you're waiting to figure out what you want to do with the money too. So there are other, it wouldn't have to be go into the fund and then get transferred, not the marina, then get transferred to free cash. You could maybe set up, I don't recommend a revolving account, but I do recommend for the pilot purposes, you might want to, and I have to check with the accountant, set up a fund reserved for appropriation that you can do something with later once you decide what you want to do with it.
I would say something I feel pretty strongly about is establishing a new sticker for residents of the town of Wellfleet, for vehicles that are registered in the town of Wellfleet, that you pay a very nominal one-time fee for that sticker, and you can park wherever there's paid parking for an unlimited amount of time. So, I think there could be a second order benefit to that. There are, some people in the town of Wellfleet that register their cars in other municipalities. We don't get the excise tax
That's right.
from that vehicle.
Right.
And so we could incentivize, I don't know how, I doubt the math would actually math on that. But it could be an incentive. But I do think that, just for the general public, is that I'm curious if any of my colleagues disagree with me, is that if you're a resident of the town of Wellfleet and your vehicle is registered in the town of Wellfleet, you should be able to be entitled to a parking sticker that would exempt you from any à la carte payments. Is that general consensus of the board there?
Yeah, I agree. And
I want to check with council to make sure we can do that, though. I'm pretty sure we
But
can.
just to let you know, there's some people that register their car here because maybe New York City is a little bit more expensive. So we do get that benefit
There's
from
no
some
excise tax
people.
in New York.
I know, well, I'm just saying.
Just as a follow-up to that, the Desmond study basically assumed that residents were basically exempt.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I don't want people to be watching this and think that was originally included. It was always assumed that they would be exempt. And basically that a sticker program would almost be rolled out of the, similar to the beach, utilizing the same stickers. But it could be different than that. I'm just saying that's what it.
We're getting into the weeds.
We are. Just to quickly on Mr. Curley's point, for the sake of accounting, I think it needs to be a separate sticker because beach stickers go to the beach department or beach transfer goes to DPW, et cetera. So, but anyways,
Just leave it for now.
I think, just to share my thoughts for a moment, I'm not sure a pilot versus full implementation is going to bear that much of a difference, but if people are more comfortable with a pilot, I could get behind it. I think the center of town makes more sense if we were to do a pilot. I agree with my colleague, Mr. Wolf, that it's the marina that desperately needs this revenue, so I would like for, if we do decide to move forward with paid parking, to have an implementation plan for the marina be developed in parallel with whatever center of town, because we want to roll that out fairly
Yeah,
quickly.
we can do that.
Something that I observed is that there could be a demarcation line at the launch. There's literally a bright yellow stripe in the pavement, and that possibly everything,
Right.
I guess, down, trying to orientate.
I
myself.
see my lunch is there.
Yeah.
The Dave's propane truck is always down there eating his lunch as well.
Well, you might have to pay.
So we may want to just consider that the launch down to Mayo Beach area, that is paid, but everything north is, reserved for the exclusive use of boaters and mariners. But we're getting in the weeds. But I do think we need to give town administration some guidance, and so I'm looking for consensus amongst the board of where we want to go next.
I think downtown Main Street area, it makes the most sense. We're not really sure exactly how we're going to do it. I mean, obviously app-based is one way, or I don't know.
Leaders out there.
Member Lyons?
I think that we should do a pilot program downtown, the two main parking areas on the street, and it might be good to have, you do have to take into consideration that everybody is comfortable with apps, putting their information in on apps. I hesitate myself, I end up usually doing it in the end, but, just because it's more convenient, but I resist for a while. And a lot of people will want to just because of you're putting more data always on something.
Mr. Wolf?
Yeah, in the interest of getting the ball rolling on this, I concur with Josh that we should start with downtown. I don't want to get in the weeds, but probably a combination like they have in Provincetown, a kiosk for those who don't use apps and the apps for those who do would be the way to go. I would just as soon see it implemented, period, but if a pilot program is the only way we can get this going, then let's get it going.
Right, I agree.
Member Carbone, any thoughts?
So when we talk about pilot, although I'm increasingly starting to agree with the chair on this, Town Hall and Pres Hall lot, those two lots, and if you add Main Street, I mean, that's basically everything but the pier. So would you consider that a pilot, because we're not doing the pier on this, in the same,
What we're,
or?
yeah, what we're not considering currently that exists in inventory is the lot at the bottom of Bank Street. I don't think Main Street should be a part of a pilot.
Okay.
I actually strongly feel that Main Street shouldn't be a part of any paid parking ever. That study was really interesting, how we would have to put pedestals at almost every
Oh,
spot.
all right, forget
which
it.
I thought was
Well,
pretty.
That was before there were these kiosks, you know, I
No.
kept,
Sorry.
no, I kept
So-
thinking, we can't have meters at every, you
No,
know.
but the gentleman made a good point that during plowing in the, well, we would have paid parking in the winter. He made an interesting
Right.
point around that it could be blocked, but I guess that's not an issue with us. Anyways.
I don't think I
yeah,
finished
please.
my comments.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
so it's okay.
Apologies.
So, no, it's fine. So if the two parking lots, Town Hall lot and Pres Hall lot, could we consider that a pilot? Okay, so I'm in favor of let's do that, and whatever else, whatever other guidance admin needs, but,
We'll come back if we need.
yeah, that's fine. Whatever you call that, if you call that a pilot or not, I think Town Hall and Pres Hall lots, we should start with those.
I guess I'd like to pull the board. Given Provincetown is the most adjacent paid parking experience that most of us are familiar with, do we find that process to be generally positive or negative, so we can maybe give direction to town administration to emulate that policy or not?
I'm up there often enough so that I buy a sticker, so I don't count them.
I've never had an issue, but there's, it's different by a lot, but.
It is.
The on-street parking, the one issue I've had is the parking number spots are right where you put your car over, so if you get out the car and you haven't remembered what the spot number was, you have no way of finding out what it is
We can paint
because you're parked over it.
We'll
No,
put
it's,
them where people will see.
It's the little things.
Yes, but those are things to think about.
we do have a member of the public who would wish to comment, but does anyone from the board want to give any further comments before we open it to the public?
No.
Mr. Sayre, do you have anything to say?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you. Are you going to have a public hearing on this before you implement it?
There's going to be a lot of steps involved here, including funding, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
from town meeting and things of that nature.
So one of the reasons why we're discussing this now is that we would need a capital expenditure with approval of town meeting to start this up.
Mm-hmm.
And so
That
there will
would be a
certainly
public-
be a discussion.
Right.
And through the chair, if I may continue?
Yes, please.
If I remember the study correctly, over 70% of all the money that they're anticipating coming in was from, a lot of it was from fines. And out of the fines, over 70% of them were fines that were going to be given to locals, not visitors. And I'm sure that's still in that study somewhere, because I have a copy of it somewhere.
No, I
So
don't
I'm
think.
not sure that it's the right, I'm just saying, there's a lot of moving parts in this. The other part is, you're going to have to make sure and see how this impacts all of the local businesses. I mean, you have Hatches behind Town Hall. I'm not going to pay a parking fee to go buy a tomato. I'm going to guarantee you that. Okay, and I don't think a lot of other people will either. You may dissuade people from parking there that are going to the beach and stuff. Or maybe they can park there long enough to go to the beach and not have to pay the $30. I believe it's still $30 down there at Whitecrest. Or maybe they'll start filling up the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot and the post office parking lot, which gets a ton of cars already, and they Uber over to the beaches from there. But I think you need to look at what the impact's going to be to the local businesses downtown. What are they going to see in a drop-off in revenue? What's the AIM thrift shop going to see as a drop-off in revenue? And I understand that you think local are used to paying, but they're used to paying when there's many, many items to be drawn for. I pay in Provincetown, but Provincetown has 20, 30, 40, 50 times the amount of venues that we have in our town. So I think you have to be very, very careful with this. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Sarah.
Thank you. It's okay.
Anyone else wish to speak on the matter?
No, okay.
All right, so I think we have found consensus of next steps is to get a proposal from town administration for Pres Hall and Town Hall lots. I personally think that it's a very good idea to maybe look at a few spots designated as very short-term, 10, 15 minutes. I thought that was a good suggestion. I don't think anyone objects to that. And we'll report back, and then we'll have to get this on the warrant for startup costs. Is that accurate?
We're also going, through the chair, we're also going to need to speak to the police department on how they may enforce this. Okay. 'Cause it may have a staffing issue as well.
The machine kind of does it.
Okay.
Okay.
Very well.
That's something that would be.
Some are people, not a big
Yeah,
deal.
we're taking small steps forward.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for putting this back on our radar.
No motion. Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
Moving on to business H. Member Curley asked for discussion on establishing a licensing board.
Sure. I'll try to be brief, but basically, the select board is the licensing board of the town as per the charter. The powers of it are vested in the charter. There's a variety of different ways that other towns structure licensing. Not all of them use the select board as the dedicated licensing board. You know, a lot of times, I mean, sometimes licensing is pretty routine, but sometimes it does get into the weeds. We have multiple regulations regarding how licensing is done in the town of Wellfleet. I doubt that very many people on this board have seen them all or are aware of them. And it creates an issue where, you know, the regulations are kind of fragmented. And there's a possibility that they're not applied regularly as they're supposed to be. But I don't necessarily have a strong feeling about which way is the best way to go forward. I thought it was worthy of having a conversation with the board. So I supplied the board with the language from the charter, the language in two of our general bylaws, one of them that conflicts with the charter, and then also the copies of the various licensing regulations I could find easily for the town of Wellfleet. It doesn't include the state licensing requirements for some things that are defaulted to the board as well. And then also I included information on how the town of Provincetown does it. As an example, it's not necessarily how we might necessarily decide to do it or not, but I mean, we all see that we do a lot of work as a board. There's definitely pros of having a dedicated licensing board. There will be more attention to applying the regulations that are adopted by the town to the various applicants before such a board. The regulations could be more unified and streamlined as well. And then obviously it would remove some of these items from our board. I would say, I would preface this by saying that, licensing as shellfishing particularly should remain with the select board. That's also set by statute as well. But if we were to do a separate licensing board, we would need a charter amendment. And we could do something similar as what we've done with some of our town meeting articles where they refer to, as set by a general bylaw instead, because then that would allow for additional flexibility rather than the complexity of doing charter amendments. The downsides are, obviously, getting enough people to staff a new board is always an issue. And then there's potential unintended consequences of applying regulations strictly, where in the past they, kind of benign neglect has kind of ruled. And then there's, the licensing board might not meet as frequently as well, it probably definitely wouldn't meet as frequently as the select board. So people would have to wait a little bit longer to deal with the licensing board. So at least for the basis, one way to resolve some of those issues is to have it default to the select board if there's a lack of a quorum of a licensing board. We could also allow a select board member or more than one select board member to serve as long as it was specified in the town meeting article itself, because then it's authorized by town meeting. And it can be included in the charter that way. Anyways, that's kind of what I was thinking. As I said, I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other, but I thought it was worthy of bringing it to the board and seeing what they would like to do. If the board wants to do one way or the other, if they wanted to pursue it, then I would, put more time into it, but I don't want to put more time into it if it's something that the board is not willing to do. As I said, I'm actually fairly neutral, so I'm.
Any thoughts or comments from the board? Member Carboni?
Why don't you start with John, because you always start with me,
Member
which I
Wolf?
appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, I've never felt that the select board's role as licensing authority was overly burdensome in terms of the time we spend on it, especially outside of the shellfish licenses. Those tend to take the most time because there's usually a lot of them in a row. But, the common victualers, the liquor licenses and so forth, it doesn't seem to ever take much time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ryan, for doing all this work. Because I think, and I agree with you, it is a good thing for us to think about and decide if we want to do this. It's worth discussion. I guess my concern is, as you raised, just populating another board or committee. And if we're going to do it, if we're going to do that, I really would like it to be a capital planning committee if we're going to start a new one up. So that's the competition would be that. So, and I think I agree with John. It's not so burdensome that I think we need to act. But just given the resources of people to serve on boards, I would rather have a capital planning committee. Thank you.
I tend to agree. I don't know if we need another committee on this. What I would like to review is the fees that we attach to certain things. It seems sometimes it's ad hoc. I'm sure it isn't. It's written somewhere. But I would like that to be sort of compiled. What do we charge for certain things? And review it. Is this still a reasonable price, or are we under selling ourselves? Things like that I would like to review. A licensing board, to issue the license, I don't think it's that burdensome. Unless we all agree on what we're doing.
So the one thing is that we do need to amend the general bylaw. We can call it something different. It just can't refer to the various members of staff as the licensing agent, because the charter charges the select board as the sole licensing agency of the town. I mean, that bylaw would be fairly easy to amend. We just would have to rephrase it. In substance, it would function the same. But if we're going for the sake of, completion, amending that bylaw would make sense. I do also think that our various regulations do need to be kind of unified, at least when it comes to licensing. That's a task I'm not really willing to take on myself. I'm not sure the best way of doing it and what it might be, but it would be helpful if they were unified so that people, if they were looking for information, could find all the information they needed in one place.
You know, that short-term committee might be good for something like that, to review, put things, what's conflicting with each other here, clarify it, get it straight once. I mean, even with the zoning, I know that they get changed, but I am sure that there's some things that are still hanging out there from year one that somebody could look up and say, well, this is still on the books, and there is some cleaning up there, but do we want a standing committee in forever? I'm not sure about that. But I agree, I think that these things are something to all agree on and know where we can find them, and everyone else can too.
Anyone else from the board?
Okay.
I suppose I haven't weighed in, but I think I agree with my colleagues. I don't think we have the scale to necessitate one, but I think that the select board has done an adequate job at handling it. Its responsibility as a licensing authority. I agree with your comments that there likely could be more focus on licensing if there was a dedicated board for it, but I don't see any major deficiencies as we've done it thus far. But if you would be so kind as to amend that bylaw that you feel there's deficiency in, and for fall town meeting, that would be greatly appreciated.
Right. Okay.
And then one thought, at least for the licensing regulations, is rather than having them all in a separate documents, I don't think administration or anybody has the energy to go through them all and kind of compile them into a single master one that makes sense entirely. But if we just put all the licensing regulations together in one document and did it that way, and then, I don't know, that would be helpful to people, and made that as, you know, the one that was available online, rather than having all these separate ones, some that are really short. I mean, some of them are like, you know, that big. And I think that would be helpful, but I don't, you know, without a dedicated committee or board, I don't see an easy path forward for those to be unified in a coherent body. So, yeah.
We have two more orders of business, and I'd like to take them together because I think that would be possibly beneficial to us. So I've asked for this agenda item to be placed to set a meeting date for yearly goals. We set a goal last year of having our goal meeting sometime shortly after the election, so that
I tried.
That wasn't successful.
We didn't do it till September, was it?
Yeah. So we're now in the back half of July. So I would very much like to have this meeting next week on Tuesday, July 28th. We already, I believe, did that shellfish hearing get scheduled?
Yes.
It did. So we do have to meet on July 28th anyways.
Well, you have the well, it's different time of day.
It's different times,
Yeah, different time
So
of day, sorry.
I think we need to get this done. I think we probably all have general ideas of what we'd like for the goals of the board to be, so I don't think it'll be too burdensome for us to put it all down on paper in a week.
That's fine.
How do we feel about this?
I can do it.
I agree we should do it.
Yep.
Okay.
Just if people write their goals, if they can identify goals that a town administration is responsible for, separately from goals that are the responsibility of the board, because there's sometimes.
There is.
So what I can do is I can just take the template we used last year. I think it was a 3-cell template. And I can just share that with everyone, and we can all fill it in. We'll share it on Tuesday. We'll consolidate it. We might need another meeting, but Mr. Town Administrator, do you have anything to add to this?
I don't like, I think there's a better way to do goals and how the board does them, but I brought it up for 2 years, and I'm not going to bring it up again.
Thank you very much. Very well. So the 28th, we'll have our goal-setting session right after the one shellfish hearing we have. It's been, so moving on to business J, I am very impartial to this only because I'm going to be out of the country, but it's been suggested that the board take a week off, and so does the board want to meet on the August 4th or not? It's really up to the board to decide.
Jay?
No.
I think it would be good to
We could use a break.
give people a break, right, ourselves and
And
Do you have
staff.
anything scheduled or?
I scheduled public hearings for the 18th.
Yeah, we have nothing on the 4th.
I'd be comfortable with that as long as we have enough time to spend with the fall town meeting warrant.
Yeah, we won't, yeah. We'll just have a rough draft of it for you then, so.
We have Chapter 7 charter amendments and the new
Right.
bylaw, but that's already done.
Started. They started the warrant right after springtime.
Yeah, we also have to let the various boards and committees know.
Yes.
So that they can get any warrant articles they have in a timely basis.
in the
So,
public, right?
Okay.
So, in agreement, no meeting on the 4th.
Yes.
Very well. Moving on to select board reports.
A week off.
I'm here.
Does anyone have any reports?
Don't have any.
Go ahead.
Just, I think this is in the nature of reports, and we've all experienced this. I have been getting inquiries about the traffic situation, so I know earlier on that you
Right.
said that, so just so you know, I think we're all hearing about it
Yeah.
as well. And in addition to the Marconi area, I mean, I've been hearing about the Main Street Route 6 one
Yeah.
as well, so,
They're not done with Route 6
Yeah, but-
intersection yet, that's why, but.
okay. But that's all, just to reinforce that
Jay
that's what we hear.
also let me know that he has screenshotted every Facebook post and sent it to the state.
Oh.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
I don't think that's going to be helpful.
No.
I like it,
We're
though.
veering off agenda to future agenda items, but
District 5 will be thrilled.
any other reports?
No, I do have a report. I did mention last meeting that it was brought up to me by several people, and we did think about having an emergency center here in the event of a storm. So I did reach out to Andrew Platt, who is heading that, and he did send me a letter, which I'll forward to you. You can forward to the board. And I did receive today, which I will forward to everyone, and really our connection to that whole discussion is Chief LaRocco, and they are already discussing this. But there's a lot of things involved in establishing a emergency center, and it's not just like we're going to open this up, and there's a lot of things involved. So, and he kind of lays those out, and then they just finalized their sort of after Hernando report, and they're looking for comments, so I'll send that out for everyone, and so that's an update on that, and also I need to talk to Jay a little bit about, what was my other,
But I think you know what I'm going to ask you.
What am I going to ask me? About correspondence? I have a correspondence. I thought it was in the packet, but it's not. I didn't get
It's
it.
at the end of the meeting minutes for July.
Oh, the
last
end of the meeting minutes, okay. So yes, we did get quite a bit of, oh, here they are. Do you want me to read all of these? They started June 29th through July 21st, and we did get an email today about the bike trail. That's what I was that was my other topic. So I said, oh, great timing. But we do have to discuss how do we kind of look at that again in finalizing the bike trail, and that was the woman's concern, considering we just had this accident yesterday. How can we keep people off the road as long as we can and encourage people to use it? But we did get a lot of emails expressing gratitude we got an email expressing gratitude for the public bathrooms outside Town Hall for their upgrade. There were emails in regards to Maurice's campground. Some were asking for more involvement. Basically, I think all of those letters were expressed in our last meeting, or the meeting, they're actually expressed here in some of the meeting minutes. That also came from the Housing Authority, from Kathleen Nagel, all in regards to Maurice's. Parallel tracks by housing on West Main Street. There was an email. So then there's inter-office correspondence, just updating us on things that the administrator has come across, keeping us up to date. The shellfish regulations were updated on July 7th. Fertilizer reduction materials policy letter to the state committee was sent. Food early warning systems. This is all, again, in internal, which I'm not sure is really public correspondence.
Sheila, did you want to mention your letter to the state?
Yes, I did send the letter to the state, and I forwarded that to all to you, and I'm sorry I didn't get it out to you this weekend, but I was having conflicting, that's what you get for having two governments on your phone. People sent letters in regards, concerns about the planning board and reports in the paper. People were regarding, then there's emails about the executive council resignation, emails about Great Pond and safety concerns, road closure from, we had that advisory put out on the road closure. I'm trying to just see where the email from Poker asking for the fertilizer bill support. Duck Pond Road potholes was from a resident discussing that, and that was resolved very quickly. And an email from Mr. Curley about the zoning bylaw amendment and inclusionary zoning, informing us of, giving us that information. Executive assistant regarding executive session. Emails about the 4th of July, emails regard to paid parking. There was an email from a resident about paid parking. I think it was saying, don't do that. Emails from residents regarding Maurice's, different opinions on Maurice's campground. A new community service director, we got that announcement. Nancy sent her shellfish crier, and we got emails from the Council on Aging and the Wellfleet Cultural on updates of their coming up events, as well as we get it from the library as well. And the one I received today was, as I said, in regards to the bike trail and what is happening with that. And that's it as of today. You're welcome.
Topics?
Well, any other reports before we move on to topics for future discussion? No? Very well.
Okay.
Topics for future discussion. Member Carboni?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Capital Planning Committee would be one when we have time to do that. I think the value of that was kind of reinforced by tonight's presentation. And then, I don't know if it's a future discussion for us yet, but warrant articles, zoning articles to conform to seasonal communities requirements. So I don't know if perhaps the Planning Department could start thinking about that.
For October?
Yeah, isn't that when we do our zoning? So we need to have compliance by next sort of spring of next year. Actually, I think it's February of next year. So this is the time for us to amend our bylaw to conform to seasonal communities. And then also, I don't think we've amended our bylaws to conform to all the requirements of the state ADU statute and bylaws. So that would be another subject.
I've brought that up a few times.
Yes, you have.
So, Maurice's as a topic. The we had the staff proposal and, that they have developed work plan, but the question of the committee was kind of left outstanding after our last one, and I kind of need to provide people some guidance here on the committee. And so if that could please be on our next meeting, I think that would be helpful.
Got that. Thank you. MCPC, very well.
And as far as the long-term care plan, I'm a geriatric social worker, the local comprehensive plan, that's being the board. Appoint a committee and that sort of thing to work with them, or who they would suggest they would like to have on there.
Do you imagine that coming before the board in August or September?
September, I would say.
Okay.
Early September, mid-September at the latest.
Anyone else? Moving on to minutes.
I reviewed the minutes.
I have some amendments.
Yes.
June 16th. Let's see, page 5, about the Harbor Actors Theater. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's the second to last sentence. Curly said to lose theater in Wellfleet, he said he wasn't looking to support the theater financially, but he hoped there was something the town could do. I was more, I had written an amendment, but basically that he was looking to see what the future of that building might be, and how a theater may or may not be retained at that location. So it wasn't specific to the what theater.
I'm sorry, so what's the actual amendment to the minutes?
Wasn't looking to support the theater financially, but he had hoped that, but he felt that we needed a discussion as to what the future of the building may or may not be, and what the town could do to have a theater there in the future.
Any other amendments?
That's that for that one, but I have others on the minutes.
Anyone else for June 16th? All right, moving on. Mr. Curley.
Okay, June 23rd. First, with the planning board appointments, just a matter of form, because it's kind of tough to read. If they can be separated by a blank line between the different candidates, I think that would be helpful in terms of organizing these in the future. Not necessarily for now, but there's a whole block of text here. And I appreciate it. I don't even know how to call out the lines here. So it's page 2, with Alfred Pickard's interview, and basically starting where it says Curly. Housing bylaws and zoning changes. All right, so after zoning changes, I would add, in any action taken relative to the housing and production plan, the planning board voted to approve in 2023.
Can you send that to me?
Yeah.
Because I don't even know where you're at.
It's page 2, and it's Alfred Pickard's interview. It's, the first, I don't know, yeah.
If you could send it to us, it would be helpful.
It's like 10 lines down.
Yeah, I see.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. 9. But the amendment starts after 10. So.
And can you just articulate the amendment for the record?
Yep. And any action taken relative.
Can you read the line where you're starting so that I can?
Okay, so it's, Curly question, Pickard's votes against various housing-related bylaws and zoning changes, and asked about any action taken relative to the housing production plan the planning board approved in 2023. And then continue on with the existing language, which is with Pickard, so on and so forth.
Got it.
And then the second one is with Beth Singer's interview. Again, Curly, it reads, Curly stated that Singer's votes on the revised ADU bylaws and why she voted against it. So this is kind of complicated. Curly asked about Singer's votes against the revised ADU bylaws and amendment to the cottage colony bylaws, allowing them to be utilized on a year-round basis, and then continue as is. Those are my amendments for those minutes.
Thank you. Any other amendments on June 23rd from the board? June 30th.
Yep. 1 second. I need to get to the 30th. This is more of a matter of form. So June 30th, there's the amendment to the shellfish regulations. It was amended at the meeting. So the motion reads.
What page are you on?
This is page 4, and I appreciate the page numbers. That's very helpful for everybody. Under item C, where there's the motions, close the public hearing, and then it reads, Board Member Wolf moved, Board Member Curley seconds, and was voted to add section, 4.15.1 intertitle, harvesting restriction to the town of Wellfleet's shell fishing policy and regulations as amended in the select board's packet, but there's no record of what the amendment was. So it's a little unclear.
You're on July 7th. not
We're,
the 30th.
we're on June 30th at the moment.
I am? Sorry.
It's okay.
So are we done with June 30th?
Yes, I think.
Unless Mr. Curley has an amendment.
No.
Nope, all right. July 7th.
Sorry.
That's right. Page 4.
July 7th, there's no record as to what the amendment was to the amendment.
Okay. Item C, you said?
Yeah, item C. I think it was just something fairly simple.
Intertitle.
It was very simple, like just some language. Yeah.
So the amendment is to, after there were none, the amendment stated.
I don't have an amendment here. It's the motion reads as amended, and there's no record as to what that amendment was.
So help me out.
So we got to go back and look at the main motion.
Yeah, I remember it was the way.
It was pretty simple.
It was the intertitle, you're right, we put intertitle.
In 4 areas.
Yeah, and it was just really inserting the word, taking out the word and putting intertitle
Do
in.
we want to save July 7th minutes to August
Yes.
18th? I know that's a little bit past 30 days, but I think that'll be okay.
All right.
All right, in that case, I will take a motion on the minutes of, I've lost the title page.
June 16th, June 23rd, June 30th, and July 7th.
No, we're going to leave out the 7th.
We're leaving out the 7th.
Oh, we're leaving out the 7th. Okay, so Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes of June 16th, June 23rd, and June 30th, 2026 as amended.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Brian, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
John, aye.
Josh, aye.
Mr. Chair, if there's nothing else, I move that we adjourn.
Second,
Roll call vote, please.
Ryan, aye.
Barbara, aye.
Sheila, aye.
I don't know. John, I.
You can sleep here, John.
Meeting is adjourned.
You got a lot of work done.